Hey everyone, welcome back. You know how we love to take those deep dives into all sorts of interesting topics to improve your English.
That's right.
Well, this time, we're all about boosting your vocabulary.
Yeah, we found this awesome guide all about advanced speaking tips in English.
And we're zeroing in on adjectives today.
Powerful adjectives, ones you can really use to make an impression.
Exactly. So get ready to go from good to astounding and pretty to exquisite, because we're going to break down not just what these words mean, but when and how to use them like a pro.
It's going to be good.
Okay, let's jump right in. The first word that caught my eye in this guide is astounding. And they define it as causing amazement, bewildering. But how is that different from just saying something is surprising?
Well, think about it this way. Astounding has this sense of being completely blown away.
Oh, I see.
Like you're just speechless.
Right, like if you saw the Northern Lights for the first time, or, like a massive waterfall.
Exactly. Astounding has this root that goes back to the idea of being stunned or dazed.
Wow, that's a much stronger image than just surprised.
Absolutely. It really amps up the level of amazement.
Okay, I'm sold. Astounding it is. So what about exquisite? The guide says it means extremely beautiful and delicate.
This one is all about refinement.
Refinement.
Yeah. Think about something that's not just beautiful, but like carefully crafted.
Ah, okay.
With incredible attention to detail.
So like a handmade, intricate piece of jewelry.
Exactly. Or a perfectly prepared gourmet meal, maybe.
Yeah, you're right. Those are both definitely exquisite. Okay, next up we have pivotal. The guide says it means of crucial importance in relation to the development or success of something else.
I always think of a hinge when I hear pivotal.
A hinge.
Yeah, like on a door. It's small, but the whole door swings on it, right?
That's true.
Same with a pivotal moment.
Okay, so it's like that one decision or event that changes everything.
Exactly, like a historical turning point.
Got it. Okay, how about ingenious?
And that's a fun word.
I know, right? It makes me think of some kind of brilliant inventor.
Well, yeah, it implies cleverness, resourcefulness, originality.
So it's not just being smart, it's like coming up with creative solutions to problems.
Exactly. Like, remember when we talked about that guy who built a working airplane out of bamboo?
Oh, yeah. That was amazing.
Totally ingenious, right?
Okay, let's see. What do we have next? Ooh, profound.
This one's deep.
Yeah, deeper than just deep, I think.
Definitely. It's about having a deep and lasting effect on you.
So like reading a book that totally changes your perspective on life.
Exactly. Or having a conversation that makes you rethink everything you thought you knew.
I have had a few of those. All right, diligent. I feel like I don't hear this word enough these days.
It's a good one, though. It really emphasizes steady, earnest, and energetic effort.
So more than just working hard, it's about being dedicated and thorough.
Definitely.
Indeed.
Putting in the time and effort to get things done right.
I can appreciate that. Okay, last but not least, we have resourceful.
I think this one is super important, especially today.
I agree. What do you think makes someone truly resourceful?
Well, they're able to think on their feet and find clever ways to solve problems, even when things get tough.
And probably not afraid to try something new.
Absolutely. They can adapt to different situations and use whatever they have at their disposal to make things work.
Like that one friend we all have who can fix anything with duct tape and a paperclip.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Well, we covered a lot of ground today, didn't we? So to wrap things up, what's the one thing you really want our listeners to take away from this deep dive into powerful adjectives?
I think the biggest thing is to just be more aware of the words you're using.
I like that.
Because the right words can have such a powerful impact.
They really can.
Not just on how you express yourself.
But also how people perceive you.
Exactly.
So for all our listeners out there, I have a challenge for you.
Ooh, I love a challenge.
Pick just one of these awesome adjectives we talked about today and try using it in a conversation sometime this week.
Yes.
And just notice how it feels, how it changes things.
I bet you'll be surprised.
Absolutely. And hey, maybe you'll even inspire someone else to up their vocabulary game.
Spreading the word power.
That's what we're all about. All right, everyone. Until next time, keep learning, keep practicing, and keep those conversations flowing.
Bye, everyone.
See you later.
Ever get the feeling that like everyday language is hiding secret stories? Well, buckle up, because in this deep dive, we're going to uncover the surprising origins of some of your favorite English idioms.
Okay.
Those sayings that color our conversations, like spill the beans.
What's fascinating is that these phrases aren't just quirks of language,
Right.
They're like little time capsules offering glimpses into history and culture,
Ooh, I like that. Time capsules.
and even human psychology.
All right, so let's crack open a few of these time capsules.
Yeah.
And what better place to start than with a phrase you might use at, say, a painfully awkward networking event?
Oh, I've been there.
What's the real story behind breaking the ice?
So imagine you're a ship captain, like centuries ago.
Okay.
It's the dead of winter, your route is frozen solid, and the only way forward is to literally, smash through the ice.
Oh, wow.
That act of carving a path through a frozen barrier, that's the original breaking the ice.
Wow, so every time I try to strike up a conversation with a stranger, I'm basically a fearless icebreaker captain battling the Arctic?
You got it.
I like that. That's a much cooler way to think about small talk. But how did we go from ships to social situations?
Well, it's a fascinating example of how physical actions can morph into metaphors for social dynamics
Okay.
that need to create a pathway, overcome an obstacle. It applies whether you're sailing a ship or navigating a room full of strangers.
Okay, this next one always makes me cringe a bit,
Oh,
and I have a feeling I know why. Bite the bullet.
okay.
Tell me, is it as gruesome as it sounds?
You have no idea.
Well.
Before the days of anesthesia, battlefield surgeons had to get creative with pain management.
Yeah, I bet.
And often that meant giving their patients something to bite down on during these agonizing procedures.
Oh, gosh.
A piece of leather, a stick, or, yes, even a bullet.
Ouch, talk about a tough situation. It makes you realize just how much we take modern medicine for granted. But how did something so brutal become a saying for facing difficult situations?
I think it speaks to that incredible human capacity for resilience.
Yeah.
For pushing through pain and adversity. Whether you are a soldier enduring a battlefield surgery or you're facing a tough conversation today, it's about summoning that inner strength, that grit to get through something unpleasant.
Makes you think about the expression grin and bear it in a whole new light. Right?
Totally.
Speaking of secrets, what about letting the cat out of the bag?
Okay.
Is this one as straightforward as it seems, or is there a sneaky feline backstory?
Oh, there's definitely a cat.
Okay.
And there's some trickery involved. Imagine yourself in a bustling medieval marketplace.
I'm there.
You're bartering for a piglet, a valuable livestock animal.
Right.
But some unscrupulous sellers would try to pull a fast one, swapping the pig for a less valuable cat hidden in a bag.
Oh. So letting the cat out of the bag exposed their deception. Poor kitty. But it does paint a rather vivid picture. And now it means accidentally revealing a secret, like spoiling a surprise party.
Precisely.
Right.
It highlights our fascination with secrets, the power they hold, and the consequences when they're unexpectedly revealed.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder what other secrets are lurking in plain sight, just waiting to be uncovered.
So true.
Okay, this next one hits close to home, especially after a recent trip to the electronics store. Cost an arm and a leg.
Oof, I feel that.
Please tell me this wasn't literal.
Okay.
Did people actually barter with body parts?
Not quite, thankfully. But it does tie back to the idea of value and status.
Okay.
So back in the day, having your portrait painted was a major status symbol.
It was.
Oh yeah, but some artists charged a premium if they had to include the subject's limbs. Apparently showcasing those fancy sleeves was a costly affair.
Wait, really? So vanity was literally priced by the body part back then. I guess some things never change. But why did limbs become the go-to for expressing outrageous expense?
It's a powerful image, isn't it?
Yeah.
It speaks to that human tendency to place a high value on certain things, even if that value seems irrational. And reminds us that what we consider expensive is often relative.
Yeah.
It's shaped by cultural norms and personal desires.
It certainly makes you rethink those impulse purchases, doesn't it?
For sure.
Okay, time for a weather report. What about raining cats and dogs?
All right.
Did people ever actually see animals falling from the sky?
Thankfully, no.
Okay.
Though the mental image is certainly memorable. This saying takes us back to 17th century England. So picture cobblestone streets, torrential downpours, and inadequate drainage systems.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, during these heavy rains, the streets would overflow, sometimes washing animals out of their shelters or off rooftops.
So it just looked like it was raining animals?
Exactly.
It's kind of gross, but I can see how that image would stick with people.
It's a testament to the power of language to capture these visceral experiences, these almost surreal moments in time.
Yeah.
And it shows how even something as chaotic as a downpour can be immortalized in a simple phrase.
All right, let's switch gears for a moment with one that sounds pretty straightforward. The ball is in your court.
Okay.
Did this one actually come from the tennis court?
It did.
Really?
And it's one of the more literal idioms we use. Just like in a tennis match, the responsibility to act shifts depending on where the ball lands.
So when we say the ball is in your court, we're essentially acknowledging a shift in responsibility, like I've done my part.
Exactly.
Now it's up to you to make a decision or take action. It's all about clear communication and knowing when it's your turn to step up.
Exactly. And just like in tennis, there's a certain strategy involved, knowing when to serve, when to return, and when to wait patiently for the next move.
Okay, I'm dying to know about spill the beans. This one has always made me picture someone literally spilling a bowl of beans to reveal a secret. Was that actually a thing?
Believe it or not, yes.
No way.
The ancient Greeks used beans for voting, white beans for yes, black beans for no. So if someone accidentally or intentionally knocked over the voting container.
Well, there goes the element of surprise. The beans were spilled and everyone knew the outcome. Talk about a voting security breach. But how did this very specific bean-related incident become a general term for revealing secrets?
Well, I think it speaks to that universal human struggle with keeping secrets and managing sensitive information. And it reminds us that even the most carefully guarded information can be unexpectedly revealed, sometimes with dramatic consequences.
You know, it's amazing how these seemingly simple phrases are like packed with so much history.
Right.
It's like each idiom is a little window into a different time and place.
It really is. And the more you explore these origins, the more you realize just how interconnected language and culture truly are.
Okay, I'm ready for more. What about steal someone's thunder? That one always makes me think of dramatic pronouncements and maybe a little bit of mischief.
Well, it is a bit theatrical. This idiom takes us back to the 18th century London theater scene.
Oh, wow.
A playwright named John Dennis invented a new sound effect for his plays. A thunder machine, if you will.
Okay.
Unfortunately, his play was a flop.
Oh, no. That's rough. Did someone literally steal his thunder machine?
Not quite, but something even worse. A rival playwright copied Dennis's thunder machine for his own production, which became a smashing success.
Oh, no.
Dennis was furious, accusing his competitor of stealing his thunder, both figuratively and literally.
So it started as a very specific complaint about a stolen sound effect,
Yeah.
but evolved into a broader idea of taking credit for someone else's idea or achievement.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that even in the world of creativity and innovation, there are ethical considerations.
Right.
Giving credit where credit is due is important, whether it's a groundbreaking invention or a simple idea shared among colleagues.
Makes you think twice about borrowing ideas, doesn't it? Okay, this next one brings to mind a boxing match. Throw in the towel. It seems pretty self-explanatory, but I bet there's more to it.
You're right. This one is connected to a very specific physical action.
Okay.
Imagine a boxing match where one fighter is clearly outmatched their cornerman. Seeing the potential for serious injury, throws a towel into the ring to signal defeat and stop the fight.
So it's that moment of surrender, of admitting defeat, when it's clear that continuing the fight is futile or even dangerous. It's about knowing when to step back and reassess.
Precisely. And while it might seem like a sign of weakness, throwing in the towel can actually be an act of strength and wisdom. It takes courage to recognize when a battle is lost and to choose a different path.
That's a really interesting perspective. Sometimes knowing when to quit is just as important as knowing when to persevere. Speaking of knowing when to call it quits, what about hit the sack? Does this one really have to do with sacks?
It does. Though not the kind you might imagine before the days of comfy mattresses and feather pillows, beds were much simpler affairs.
Oh.
People often slept on mattresses stuffed with straw or hay.
So hitting the sack was quite literal. You were plopping down onto a bag of hay for the night. That makes so much sense. And it's kind of funny to think that a phrase that originated from such humble beginnings is still so widely used today.
It shows how language evolves alongside technology and culture. We may not sleep on hay anymore, but the need for rest for that moment of surrender at the end of the day is universal.
Right.
And hit the sack perfectly captures that feeling.
I'm loving how these idioms give us these little glimpses into the past. It's like time traveling through language. Okay, I have a feeling this next one is going to be a fun one. Under the weather. Did people used to literally hide from storms under the clouds?
Not quite. This one comes from the world of sailing. When sailors got seasick, they would often go below deck to escape the rough seas and the fresh air.
Wow.
So they were literally under the weather,
Yeah.
seeking refuge from the elements.
Wow, that's so clever. It never occurred to me that weather in this context referred to the actual weather conditions at sea. And now it's a common way to say you're feeling a bit ill or just not your best.
It's a great example of how a phrase born from a specific context can become a metaphor for a broader human experience.
Right.
We may not be battling storms at sea, but we all have times when we feel a bit off or under the weather in a more general sense.
All right. This last one for this part makes me think of those late night study sessions fueled by coffee and determination. Burn the midnight oil. Did people actually burn oil to stay up late?
They did. Before the advent of electricity, oil lamps were the primary source of light after sunset. So if you were working or studying late into the night, you were literally burning oil to illuminate your workspace.
That's fascinating. It's amazing how a phrase that originated from such a practical necessity has become a metaphor for dedication and hard work. It makes you appreciate how much technology has changed our lives.
It does.
Yeah.
But it also highlights that certain human experiences transcend time and technology, that drive to accomplish something, to push through challenges. Whether you're burning the midnight oil by lamplight or laptop screen, it's a testament to human ambition and resilience.
It's incredible how these idioms we use every day are like these secret messages from the past.
That's all right.
Who knew that like such simple phrases could unlock so much history and culture?
It's a testament to the power of language,
Yeah.
These sayings may have originated centuries ago, but they still resonate with us today because they tap into these universal human experiences. The need to connect, to overcome challenges, to, make sense of the world around us.
It's like each idiom is a little puzzle piece. And once you understand where it came from, it fits perfectly into this larger picture of human history and the evolution of language.
That's a great way to put it. And what's so fascinating is that this puzzle is constantly expanding.
Right.
New idioms are being created all the time, reflecting the changing world we live in. Who knows what sayings will be puzzling future generations?
That's a really interesting thought. It makes you wonder what our everyday phrases will reveal about us to people centuries from now. But for now, I feel like we've only scratched the surface of the idioms we use.
Yeah.
There are so many more out there, each with its own unique story waiting to be uncovered.
There are indeed, and that's the beauty of it. You can keep exploring, keep digging deeper into the language you use every day. You might be surprised by what you find.
So to all you listeners out there, we challenge you to start paying closer attention to the idioms you use. Don't just take them at face value.
Yeah.
Do a little research, ask questions, and see what hidden treasures you can unearth.
And remember, language is a living thing. It's constantly evolving, adapting to new technologies and cultural shifts. So keep your ears open for new sayings, new ways of expressing ourselves.
Right.
Who knows, you might even coin the next spill the beans or bite the bullet.
That's a great point. Well, we've had a fantastic time exploring the origins of these quirky and fascinating idioms. We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive as much as we have, and that you've come away with a newfound appreciation for the power and depth of everyday language. Until next time, keep those brains buzzing and those tongues twisting.
Have you ever stopped and thought, what it'd be like if you could just walk up to a tree and have a conversation with it? Really, what kind of stories do you think they'd tell us?
Oh, wow. That's really something to think about, isn't it? Trees. Some of them have been around for hundreds of years. They've seen so much.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's so cool about this English lesson we're diving into. It's only 20 minutes long, but it really gets you thinking about talking trees. It uses all this vocabulary and tells stories, and even has you do a little role playing.
And what's really neat is how it uses that imagination thing to help you learn the language. Maybe if we start picturing trees talking, we might start understanding what they're already trying to tell us,
It's kind of like how some cultures already see trees, right? I was reading about the ancient Celts and their tree gods, or the Japanese and how they do forest bathing. It's all about connecting with nature on a deep level.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like we're tapping into something we all have inside us, that desire to understand the natural world around us.
So, okay, this lesson has a story in it called A Conversation with an Oak Tree. And the author uses some really awesome words to describe this tree, majestic oak, centuries old, roots stretching deep. You can practically see this tree.
It's true. Those words really make a difference. They're not just describing the tree. They're making you feel something about it, right?
Yeah.
You get a sense of how wise and how old this oak tree is.
Yeah, I noticed that too. It's they want us to see this tree as something more than just a tree, maybe a wise old being or something.
Exactly. And that idea really comes through in the story itself. So the oak tree starts sharing memories, how it took care of a family of birds and provided shade to tired travelers and watched kids playing in its branches. It's this beautiful picture of how the tree is connected to everything around it.
It really gets you thinking about all the things a tree must see in its lifetime.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just always there watching everything go by.
It reminds us that trees aren't just background scenery. They're a really important part of the whole ecosystem.
And the oak tree in the story, it actually has a message for the person who's listening. It talks about how important it is to be gentle and caring and to live in harmony with nature.
It's a powerful message, especially these days when protecting the environment is so crucial. It's like if we try to see things from the tree's point of view, maybe we'll start to get how important that balance is.
Totally. So this lesson also goes into vocabulary, and there are some really cool words in there, like canopy, whisper, murmur, thrive. I mean, they all paint this amazing picture of the forest.
Those words are carefully chosen, like take canopy, for instance. It's not just about the top of the forest, it's also about the feeling of shelter it provides, how everything is connected up there.
It's like they're trying to make us feel like we're right there in the forest with the tree,
Exactly. And when you learn those words, you start to appreciate nature in a whole new way.
It's funny how learning new words can do that.
Yeah. Language has a lot of power, doesn't it? It shapes how we see the world.
So this lesson, it goes on to show these sample dialogues where people are actually talking to trees and asking them for advice.
That's a really clever way to get people practicing the language and thinking creatively. Like when you imagine talking to a tree, you have to think outside the box,
It's like we forget that nature can teach us so much if we just take the time to listen.
And speaking of listening, the lesson also has this role-playing activity where you get to imagine your own conversation with a tree.
Oh, that's a great idea. So it's like taking everything you've learned and putting it into action.
And it makes you think, what would I even ask a tree? What kind of wisdom am I looking for?
Right. Like what could a tree teach us about ourselves and how we live our lives?
Exactly. It makes you really think about things from a different perspective.
It's almost like, that saying, if a tree falls in a forest and no one's around, does it make a sound? But like, what if they've been talking this whole time and we're just not hearing them?
Wow. Yeah, that's a good question. You ever think about how long some trees have been around? I mean, they've been standing there watching everything happen.
Oh, totally. I was just reading about this bristlecone pine. They call it Methuselah. And get this, it's almost 5,000 years old. That's like way before the pyramids were even built.
That's insane. Imagine if it could talk, right? Think of all the stories it would have. It'd be like a walking history book.
Well, speaking of history, this lesson actually talks about how trees can give us this unique perspective on time. Especially when you think about how humans have changed the environment,
Yeah, that's right. They've been through so much, like ice ages and forest fires and then all the stuff that we do.
Yeah.
But they always seem to bounce back.
It makes you think, even if trees can't talk to us with words, they're definitely sending us messages about the planet.
Totally. They're like these silent watchmen, always keeping an eye on things.
Oh, and it's cool. I was reading about this network of fungi that connects all the trees underground. It's almost like they have their own internet.
Oh yeah, mycorrhiza, right. Isn't that wild? The trees can actually use that network to share resources and warn each other about danger.
Wow, so it really is like an internet for trees.
Kinda, yeah. It just shows you how connected everything is in nature. We might think trees are all separate, but they're all linked together underground.
So like it's not just a bunch of individual trees, it's like a whole community, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the more we learn about those connections, the more we understand how amazing nature really is.
This lesson does a really good job of explaining all of that. And it makes you wonder, what if we could actually understand what the trees are saying?
Well, even though we can't have a conversation with them, we can still pay attention to how they're communicating.
Like, how their leaves change color or the rings inside their trunks.
Right. They're always sending us signals. We just have to learn how to read them.
And the lesson really stresses how important it is to protect forests. Not just for the trees, but for everything that lives there and for the whole planet.
It's true. I mean, think about it. They give us clean air and they help control the climate. And don't forget all the animals that live in forests.
Right. When you take care of trees, you're taking care of everything.
I think this lesson does a really great job of explaining all of that in a way that's interesting and fun. It's not like a lecture or anything.
It definitely makes you think. And it reminds me of how some cultures have always had this deep respect for trees and nature.
Yeah, a lot of cultures see trees as sacred or spiritual.
Like, how some Native American tribes would plant a tree when a baby was born? They saw it as a way of connecting that child to nature.
It's a beautiful tradition. It shows that our connection with nature goes beyond just the physical stuff. It's about something deeper.
Makes you wonder what they'd tell us if we could actually sit down and have a chat with them.
I think it would be amazing. Like, imagine all they could teach us about resilience, about adapting to change, about how we're all connected.
I've always been kind of fascinated by those giant trees like the redwoods and sequoias. They live for like hundreds, even thousands of years. They must have seen so much.
Yeah, I know what you mean. They've seen civilizations come and go. They've survived all kinds of natural disasters. They've seen the world change in ways we can't even imagine.
It really makes you think about your own place in the world, doesn't it?
It does. We're just a small part of something much bigger.
So like going back to this English lesson we've been talking about, what do you think is the biggest thing listeners should take away from it?
I think the biggest thing is that it gets you to see trees differently. Not just as like these big plants, but as living beings with their own stories to tell.
It's like that saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now.
That's a good one. It's never too late to start appreciating trees and learning from them.
Even if we can't actually talk to trees, we can still learn how to take better care of them.
Exactly. And we can appreciate how important they are for the whole planet.
So to wrap things up, I think this deep dive has really shown us that there's so much more to trees than meets the eye.
Yeah, it's like opening up a whole new world.
And maybe if we listen closely enough, we'll start to hear what the trees have been trying to tell us all along.
Who knows? Maybe they've got all the answers.
Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. All right, so anyone out there want to pick up English quick? Like just the bare bones stuff.
Essentials.
Yeah. We found this YouTube video
Oh, yeah.
called 33 Most Useful English Words for Beginners.
Okay.
It's basically like a cheat sheet.
Like a crash course, kind of.
Yeah. For anyone just starting out. You know.
Right. Interesting.
And what's really cool is how they've like grouped these words.
Oh, yeah. How
I like categorization.
Yeah.
keeps things tidy.
So it's like greetings to get you by
Oh, yeah.
everyday nouns and verbs.
So it's like they're building from the ground up.
Yeah. It's like a little survival pack,
Oh, that's interesting.
but for language.
Yeah.
So
Like,
we're
for
going
real.
to dive into this and see if they can really pull off this
What
promise
price is that?
that you can have like basic conversations
Oh, wow.
just from these 33 words.
Okay.
So first up, we have the basics. Greetings. We're talking hello, goodbye, good morning.
The pleasantries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, you can't forget please and thank you.
Of course not.
You got to be polite.
Oh, yeah. It's funny how
Right.
those are like universal. Like
Yeah.
no matter what language,
It transcends language.
you've got a way to be polite, to
Yeah.
acknowledge someone.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting.
It's more than just the words.
It really is.
You're establishing a connection.
a rapport.
Yeah. Like a thank you can go a long way
Absolutely.
anywhere in the world.
But then the video gets into what they call survival words.
Survival words.
Yeah, I'm interested.
Like imagine you're in a new place.
Okay.
You don't speak the language.
Right.
You need help.
Okay.
So think like yes, no help.
Okay, basic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even like, where is the bathroom?
Oh, yeah.
Essential.
Essential.
I remember being in this market in Morocco.
Oh, wow.
And it was so crowded.
Yeah.
I was completely lost.
Yeah.
And just knowing how to say, where is the bathroom
Yeah.
in like their language
Right.
was a lifesaver.
Oh, yeah. I bet.
Oh my gosh.
It's amazing how those like simple phrases
Yeah.
can suddenly feel so crucial.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But the video doesn't stop there.
No, they keep going.
They dive into common nouns
Yeah.
like food, money, time.
Mm.
I mean, we use these all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but are they really the key
That's what I was thinking.
to unlocking deeper conversations like they're suggesting?
Yeah, because I was thinking like,
Yeah.
wouldn't it be more interesting to
Like,
start with verbs?
oh.
Like to describe actions
Okay.
or even feelings,
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I think we should give them the benefit of the doubt
Okay.
and see where they go with it.
Fair enough. Let's hear them out.
Okay.
All right.
So after nouns,
Mm-hmm.
they move on to verbs.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Eat, drink, go, come,
The action.
all the actions.
Yeah.
And what's really cool
Yeah, what's that?
is they emphasize using different tenses,
Ah.
like went versus going.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right.
Yeah.
That's something a lot of beginners trip up on.
Oh, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Because mastering those verb tenses
Yeah.
lets you talk about the past, present, future.
Right.
Adds a whole new dimension to how you express yourself.
It's like time travel.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
language needs more than just actions.
Okay, what else does it mean?
You need some flavor. You need some
spice.
Yeah. So that's where adjectives come in,
Right.
according to the video.
Okay.
Words like good, bad, big, small, all those ways to describe things.
Right.
And inject some feeling into what you're saying.
Inject some emotion.
Yes.
It is fascinating how just one adjective
Oh, yeah.
can completely change the tone of a sentence.
I like that.
Good is fine,
Okay.
but saying something is fantastic or terrible.
Ooh.
Now those words,
Now we're talking.
they pack a punch.
Yeah, yeah.
And the video really encourages viewers to explore synonyms like that, to expand their vocabulary.
It's like they're saying,
What are they saying?
like, don't just tell me it's bad.
Right?
Tell me how W bad.
Exactly.
Now, I'm curious. What do you think about their choice of adjectives?
Okay.
Are those really the most essential ones to learn first?
That is a good question.
Yeah.
While those are certainly common, I wonder if prioritizing adjectives related to emotions
Okay.
might be more impactful.
Interesting.
Think about words like happy, sad, excited, scared.
Okay.
Those tap into a deeper level of communication,
Yeah.
allowing you to express how you feel and connect with others on a more personal level.
Yeah, you're right. Those definitely seem more powerful
Yeah,
than big or small.
Yeah.
You put it that way.
for sure.
Okay. So
Okay.
we've got nouns,
Got it.
verbs,
That's
adjectives. What's missing?
what is missing.
Questions.
The question mark.
Yes.
Okay.
They're the key to unlocking information.
Right.
And, like the video suggests having deeper conversations.
Okay.
What, where, when, why, how. Imagine trying to navigate a new city without those.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've been there.
Oh, yeah.
Not fun,
Yeah.
but it's more than just getting directions.
Right.
Those question words are
Yeah.
the starting point for learning about anything, right?
Yeah,
It's how we satisfy our curiosity,
totally.
explore the world around us.
And just like with the other word categories,
Yeah.
these questions can lead to so many different conversations.
Oh, I bet.
Like just starting with where
Okay.
could lead you to discussions about travel,
Oh, yeah.
history, culture, who knows?
Right.
It's really exciting.
Very exciting.
But before we get too carried away,
Yeah.
let's take a little pause and we'll come back for part 2 of this deep dive.
Sounds good. Welcome back. Ready to go a bit deeper with this idea.
Yeah. Are 33 words really enough for real conversations?
I mean, it's a big claim,
Right.
but
But they're thinking big.
yeah.
So one thing they emphasize is like context.
Context. Okay.
Like just taking the word good can mean so many different things.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It all depends on how you use it.
Right. Good could describe food,
Yeah,
a person's character,
exactly.
even the weather.
Yeah.
Like, it all
You
depends.
can't just memorize definitions.
Right. You got to understand how it works,
Yeah.
how the word functions
In a sentence.
in a real life situation.
Yeah. So that's where practice comes in.
Practice. Okay.
They talk about using these words in everyday conversations.
Right.
Maybe even doing like role play.
Oh, like little scenarios?
Yeah. To get comfortable.
I like that.
I actually did that when I was learning Spanish. I
Right.
felt so silly, but it really helped.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
When you use the words in context, you start to
Yeah.
internalize the nuances
Yeah.
and you build confidence.
We get that confidence.
And it doesn't always have to be formal practice either.
Oh, that's true.
They also mention listening for these words,
Okay.
like in real conversations,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
like movies or TV shows,
Okay.
like passive learning,
Right.
but you're still absorbing the language.
That's a good point.
Right.
Yeah, we're surrounded by opportunities to learn,
We are,
even when we don't realize it.
all the time.
Speaking of noticing patterns,
Yeah.
I thought it was cool how they broke down the 33 words
Oh, yeah. How so?
into those categories.
Right.
Nouns, verbs, adjectives, and so on.
It's like they're giving you a framework
Yeah.
for understanding how language works.
It's like a little toolbox.
Oh, a linguistic toolkit?
Yeah.
You got your nouns to name things, verbs to describe actions,
Yeah.
adjectives to add detail. And then once you get how those pieces fit together,
Yeah.
you can start building more complex sentences.
It's pretty clever
It is,
when you think about it.
but they don't just leave you with a toolbox.
No, they give you some tips,
Okay.
like
Oh,
for practice.
Yeah.
Like using flashcards to test yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking out loud
Uh-huh.
to get the pronunciation down.
Those multisensory approaches are helpful
Yeah.
for language learning. When you engage like multiple senses,
Yeah.
sight, sound, even touch,
Right.
it helps solidify the information.
Okay.
And for those who like a more hands-on approach,
Yeah.
they recommend keeping a journal.
A journal.
Yeah.
How does that work with 33 words?
Well, the idea is to like
Yeah.
try to incorporate those words into your entries.
Okay.
Even if it's just like a few sentences.
So you're tracking your progress,
Tracking your progress.
getting comfortable,
Getting comfortable using the words.
and making it more personal.
Making the learning process more personal.
That's actually a really good idea.
It is.
Yeah, you take the focus off of just memorizing,
Yeah.
and it becomes more creative.
Right. And I bet seeing yourself use those words correctly
Yeah.
day after day
Yeah,
would be a huge confidence booster.
absolutely. Confidence is key
It is.
for language learning.
It's not just about knowing the words.
Yeah.
It's about feeling comfortable using them.
Right.
And that confidence comes from practice,
Hmm.
pushing yourself outside your comfort zone and
Yeah.
embracing those mistakes.
The mistakes along the way.
Oh, yeah. I used to get so flustered
Oh, yeah.
when I would mess up a word or a phrase,
Yeah.
but now I just laugh it off
That's good.
and keep trying.
It's all part of the process.
Yeah, it's all part of the learning curve.
Every mistake is a learning opportunity.
Right?
It helps you identify where you need to improve,
Yeah.
and it gives you a chance to try again.
Try again.
So don't be afraid to experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Make mistakes and have fun with it.
But before we get too carried away
Yeah.
with all this talk of practice and confidence,
Right.
let's take a quick break
Yeah.
and come back for the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, we're back and ready for the final part of our deep dive
Right.
into these 33 essential words.
It's amazing how much we've unpacked,
Yeah.
even though it seems like a simple concept.
Yeah, when you first look at it, you're like, oh, 33 words.
Yeah.
But we've gone pretty deep.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
As the video points out, though, this is really just the starting point,
Yeah, it's like they've given us the basic tools.
a foundation
Yeah, now it's up to us to build something.
to build on that.
Yeah, and they give us some suggestions
Oh, they do.
for continuing the journey,
Yeah, like what?
like watching movies with subtitles,
Okay.
listening to music,
Yeah.
even reading books.
It's all about immersing yourself in the
Yeah.
language, finding ways to make it a part of your daily life.
Yeah.
The more you expose yourself to English, the more natural it'll become.
That's true. I remember when I was learning Spanish,
Oh, yeah.
I started watching telenovelas
Telenovelas.
with subtitles.
Yeah.
They were so cheesy, but
Oh, right.
really helped me kick up
Yeah.
everyday phrases.
Right. And slang.
Yes.
And it highlights something the video touches on.
What's that?
The importance of like paying attention
Yeah.
to how these words are used in
Mhm.
different situations.
So it's not just about knowing the definition.
Exactly. It's
Oh,
about
okay.
how they're used.
Yeah, yeah. How does good change when you're talking about food
Right.
versus someone's personality?
That's a good thought exercise.
Right.
It forces you to think beyond the basic definition.
Mm.
Consider the nuances
Yeah.
of how a word can be used.
I like that.
Right.
Yeah, it's developing a deeper understanding
Deeper understanding.
of how language works.
Yeah. And speaking of nuances,
Okay.
I was impressed by how the video encouraged viewers to think about the emotional weight behind certain words.
Oh, yeah, like happy and sad.
Yeah, not just happy and sad,
Yeah.
but all those shades of emotion.
Like
Was
delighted versus content.
Yeah, those convey different levels of happiness.
Right.
Exactly. And being able to express
Yeah.
those subtle differences in feeling
It's huge.
is a key part of effective communication.
Yeah. It lets you connect
Yeah.
on a deeper level.
Don't just tell me you're happy.
Yeah.
Tell me what kind of happy you are.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that brings us back to what we talked about earlier.
What's that?
The power of language.
Oh, the power of
To
language.
connect us.
To connect.
To understand each other.
To build bridges.
Yes.
It is remarkable when you think about it.
It is.
These 33 words, seemingly so simple,
Yeah.
can unlock a world of communication
And connection.
and connection.
I think that's a beautiful way to wrap up
I think so too.
this deep dive
We've explored these essential words.
from every angle.
Yeah. And it's clear they're much more
Yeah.
than just a list,
More than a YouTube video.
a starting point for a lifelong journey
Ooh, I like that.
of language learning
And discovery.
and discovery.
So now we want to leave you with a thought.
Oh, a thought to ponder
Yes. What are some simple words
in your native language
that are surprisingly versatile?
or essential for communication.
We encourage you to explore those hidden depths.
The magic within the most basic vocabulary.
Thanks for joining us on this linguistic adventure.
Until next time,
Keep exploring.
the power of words. Okay, so you want to start thinking in English, right? Not just studying it, but actually thinking.
Like flipping a switch in your brain.
Exactly. And this video you send over, it's all about that.
It's about 20 minutes long.
Yeah, for intermediate and above learners.
People who are ready for that next level.
Okay, so the video jumps right into the benefits.
And I have to say, some of them surprised me.
Me too. I mean, obviously there's fluency, right?
Words just come out easier when you're not translating in your head.
But it goes deeper than that.
Way deeper.
Like the video argues that thinking in English actually improves your comprehension overall.
It's like you develop an intuition for the language.
Oh, that's good. Like you said, it really is like flipping a switch in your brain.
You're not just memorizing rules anymore.
You're actually feeling the language, the rhythm of it.
That's a great way to put it.
So how do we actually do this?
How do we flip that switch?
Well, the video has a bunch of practical tips.
The first one is surprisingly simple.
Almost too simple, I think.
Label everything.
Like everything.
Look around you right now.
Okay, I see a lamp, a chair, my computer.
And instead of thinking of those in your native language,
You think of them in English.
lamp, chair, computer,
So basic,
that
But-
this works.
our brains are wired for association, right?
So you're constantly linking the object.
With the English word.
It strengthens that connection,
Makes it automatic.
like building mental muscle memory.
Okay, that makes sense for objects, but what about thoughts?
More complex ideas?
That's where the inner monologue comes in, I guess.
Talking to yourself in English.
Ooh, that sounds a little...
Weird.
Yeah, a little weird.
It is at first.
Our native language is just so automatic, you know?
It's the default.
But the video says that the more we catch ourselves slipping back,
And consciously choose English?
the stronger that English brain gets.
Exactly.
So it's about being mindful
Catching those thoughts as they pop up.
and reframing them in English.
The video gives some good examples.
Like what?
Imagine you're washing the dishes.
Okay, I do that a lot.
Instead of thinking, ugh, these plates are dirty, in your native language.
You could think, man, these plates need a good scrub in English.
Okay, I see.
You're narrating your life in English.
That's a cool way to think about it.
But what if you hit a word you don't know?
That happens to me all the time.
That's where a little creativity comes in.
Creativity.
Describe the word in English instead of switching back to your native language.
Oh, interesting.
So you don't know the word toaster,
Okay.
but you can think that thing that makes bread crispy,
So you stay in the English mindset.
even when your vocabulary is limited.
That's really clever, actually.
It keeps the flow going.
So we've got labeling and inner monologue.
What else could there be?
Well, the video also talks about immersion,
Surrounding yourself with the language as much as possible.
like reading English books,
Yes. And articles, websites, anything you enjoy.
listening to English music.
Podcasts, movies, the news, anything.
Okay, but doesn't that feel like work?
It shouldn't. Even if we enjoy the content, it still takes effort.
That's why choosing something you genuinely like is so important.
So you're not just forcing yourself to study.
You're actually enjoying the experience,
Makes sense.
and you're absorbing the language naturally.
But what about different types of content?
What do you mean?
Like, is reading a novel better than scrolling through social media, for example?
That's a good point. While any exposure helps,
Engaging with more complex language is key.
right, reading a novel will expose you to richer vocabulary and grammar,
Than just skimming tweets.
much richer.
So it's about quality over quantity.
Absolutely.
But even with good content, sometimes I feel like my brain just tunes out the English.
I know what you mean.
Like I'm reading the words, but they're not sinking in.
It happens.
So how do you prevent that?
The video suggests visualizing.
Visualizing, what do you mean?
As you read or listen, create a mental image of what the words mean.
Interesting.
It forces your brain to process the information more deeply.
Give me an example.
You read the word sparkling.
Sparkling.
You should picture a diamond glittering in the sunlight.
Ooh, I see. That makes it more vivid.
More memorable.
Okay, I like that tip.
So far, so good.
Yeah, but it feels like a lot, you know?
All these tips at once.
Labeling, inner monologue, immersion.
It's a lot to take in.
And to make it a daily habit, it feels overwhelming.
That's why the video says to start small.
Not try to do everything at once.
Right. Build up gradually.
So baby steps.
Pick a specific time of day
Just 5 minutes, maybe?
and commit to thinking only in English during that time
Could be first thing in the morning.
or on your commute to work.
Or while you're cooking dinner.
anytime that works for you.
Set a timer and go.
Exactly.
Once that feels comfortable, you can increase the time.
Slowly but surely.
Okay, starting small, I get it.
It's about creating a sustainable routine.
Something you can stick with.
But how do you track your progress?
Yeah, how do you know if it's actually working?
The next tip is all about that.
Okay, hit me with it.
Summarize your day in English.
Out loud or in writing.
Either one works.
So it's like a mini journal,
Sort of. You're reviewing the day's events.
but you're doing it all in English.
It helps you organize your thoughts.
And see how far you've come.
It also forces you to use the language actively.
Not just passively absorbing it.
You're actually producing it.
Okay, daily summaries. Got it.
Now, for a slightly bolder approach,
Oh boy, bolder.
try thinking aloud.
Wait, what?
Talking to yourself in English?
Like full-on conversations.
Not necessarily full conversations,
But expressing your thoughts out loud.
yes. It sounds strange,
It does.
but it's incredibly effective.
How so?
It creates a direct connection between thought and speech.
I've never thought about it like that.
In your native language, the words just flow, right?
Yeah, you don't have to think about it.
Thinking aloud in English helps build that same fluidity.
But in a safe space, of course.
Maybe not on a crowded bus.
Definitely not. But at home, when I'm alone. Okay, thinking aloud added to the list.
Now, here's a key concept from the video.
Shoot.
We often learn languages by focusing on individual words.
Vocabulary lists, grammar rules, that kind of thing.
But thinking in English is about thinking in phrases,
Phrases.
chunks of language.
So not just I want coffee.
But I'll have a coffee, please.
That makes sense.
It's more natural.
More fluent.
You're not translating word by word.
You're thinking in complete units of meaning.
Exactly.
But how do you train your brain to do that?
You already do it in your native language.
Really?
Think about everyday expressions.
Like, good morning.
Yes. Or, what are your plans for the weekend?
Instead of thinking plan and weekend separately.
You think of the whole phrase as one unit.
Oh, that's interesting. Like creating mental shortcuts.
Shortcuts for common expressions.
Makes things much smoother.
Now, what about mistakes?
Don't get me started on mistakes.
Everyone makes them.
It's so frustrating, though.
The video says to embrace them.
Embrace them.
They're part of the process.
Easy to say when you're already fluent.
But it's true. Mistakes are how we learn.
I know. It's just hard sometimes.
Each mistake is an opportunity
An opportunity for what?
to refine your understanding,
To learn something new.
to get better.
Okay. I'll try to see it that way.
Good.
But what about real-life conversations?
How do you use all these tips when you're actually talking to someone?
That's what I'm wondering.
The video gives some examples.
Like what?
Your morning routine, commuting to work, ordering coffee.
Oh, I need help with all of those.
It shows you how to think in English in those situations.
So we can actually apply these tips in practice.
That's the goal.
Sounds good to me.
Shall we dive into those examples?
Absolutely. But first, I think we need a quick break.
Sounds good.
All right, so break time's over. Back to those real-life scenarios.
Where thinking in English really makes a difference.
Let's start with the morning routine.
Okay, you wake up.
Hit the snooze button, maybe.
But instead of thinking 5 more minutes in your native language,
You think, I'm so tired, but I gotta get up in English.
even those first groggy thoughts.
They become practice. I like it.
Now, how about something more challenging?
Ooh, like what?
Ordering coffee,
Oh, yeah. That's always stressful.
even in my native language.
Seriously. But if you're thinking in English already,
You're one step ahead.
you're not just staring at the menu, panicking.
You're thinking, okay, what am I in the mood for?
Iced coffee, latte, maybe something sweet.
You're preparing for the interaction.
It's like a pep talk in English.
And you can use those chunks we talked about
Oh, right. The phrasing.
instead of trying to remember each word separately.
You think, I'll have a caramel latte, please?
All as one unit.
My brain is starting to hurt just thinking about all this.
It's a lot to process.
But I'm seeing the bigger picture now.
It's about more than just vocabulary and grammar.
It's a whole different way of thinking.
New mindset.
Okay, so we got to start small, right?
One step at a time.
But how do we know if it's working?
What are some signs that our English brain is getting stronger?
Good question.
Well, do you find yourself translating less?
That would be a good sign.
What about your fluency in conversations?
Has it improved?
Do the words come more naturally?
I guess I'd have to pay attention to that.
And your listening comprehension?
Connected too?
Absolutely. When you're thinking in English,
It's easier to understand spoken English.
your brain is already in that mode.
Wow, this is pretty amazing stuff.
It's changing your relationship with the language,
Not just improving specific skill.
but transforming how you interact with English overall.
Oh, okay, but let's be real. This takes time, right?
It's a journey.
Not a quick fix.
The video makes that very clear.
There's no magic bullet.
It's consistent effort and practice.
What about those moments when you just feel stuck?
We all hit those walls.
Like you're not making progress.
That's where low-pressure practice comes in.
Oh yeah, we talked about that before.
Finding a language exchange partner.
Or recording yourself speaking.
Why are those so important?
Yeah, why not just jump into challenging conversations right away?
Because it's about creating a safe space
To experiment, make mistakes,
without feeling judged
so you can build confidence.
before you tackle those tougher situations.
I see, so it's like training wheels for your English brain.
Exactly. But finding a good language partner can be tricky.
Any advice on that?
Look for someone with similar goals and proficiency level
So you can learn together.
and support each other.
There are websites and apps for that, right?
Tons of them.
What about recording yourself speaking?
That's a great way to practice too.
I'm always so awkward when I hear my own voice.
It's normal to feel self-conscious.
Any tips for making it less scary?
Start with a familiar topic.
Something you're comfortable talking about.
Don't worry about being perfect.
Just focus on speaking naturally.
And then listen back and see how you did.
Identify areas for improvement.
It's a valuable learning tool,
Plus, you get used to hearing yourself speak English.
which can boost your confidence.
Okay, this is all making sense.
We've covered a lot of ground today,
From labeling our surroundings to recording ourselves speaking.
but there's one final message in the video.
A takeaway for our listeners.
A reminder that small steps lead to big results.
So even if it feels overwhelming,
Just focus on one thing at a time.
and be patient with yourself.
Consistency is key.
Don't expect to be fluent overnight,
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
but the more you practice,
The easier it will become.
until it becomes second nature.
Like flipping a switch in your brain.
We've come full circle.
So, are you ready for that final question?
Hit me with it. So what's the one thing our listeners should focus on this week? If they could only pick one strategy, what would it be?
That's tough. They're all so helpful.
I know, right? But if you had to choose,
Just one. I'd say start with the inner monologue.
really, inner monologue,
Yeah, it's like the foundation.
the basis for everything else.
Exactly. It's training your brain to think in English automatically.
Even before you open your mouth.
You're building that habit.
Okay, so listener, your challenge this week,
Pay attention to your thoughts
catch yourself thinking in your native language.
and make that switch to English.
See how it feels.
Does it get easier?
Do you notice a difference?
Let us know.
And remember, don't get discouraged.
It takes time.
Be patient.
Celebrate the small wins.
Keep that English voice going in your head.
You got this.
This has been amazing. So many great tips.
It's all about changing your mindset.
Seeing English as more than just a subject to study.
It's a language to live in,
To think in, to dream in,
to experience the world in.
and this deep dive.
It's just the beginning.
So keep practicing, keep exploring.
And most importantly, keep thinking in English.
Until next time.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I will show you how to think in English in today's lesson. If you've been studying English for a while but still find yourself translating from your native language into English in your head, this video is definitely for you. Learning to think in English can make you more confident, help you speak more fluently, and increase your understanding of everyday English. We'll talk about simple, practical tips you can use right away to switch your thinking from your native language to English. Let's get started. First of all, you might wonder, why do I need to think in English? Can't I learn vocabulary and grammar and practice speaking? The answer is yes, you can learn those things, but if you keep translating in your head, you'll slow down your fluency. You might also get stuck on words that don't have an exact translation in English. Thinking in English helps you. 1. Improve fluency. When your thoughts are already in English, the words come out faster and more naturally when you speak. 2. Boost confidence. You'll be more confident in conversations if you don't have to pause to translate. 3. Develop an English brain. Over time, using English for your internal thoughts strengthens your overall comprehension and language intuition. Think of it like switching your phone's language setting to English. You gradually adapt and start recognizing patterns without having to go back to your original language. Let's dive into the strategies that can help you get there. One of the simplest ways to start thinking in English is to label the objects around you. Let me show you an example. Here, I have a cup, a pen, and a notebook. Instead of saying these words in your native language, I want you to practice calling them by their English names. Cup, pen, notebook. As you walk around your room, apartment, or house, try to mentally name everything in English. Door, window, television, chair, table, and so on. Do this even briefly when you look at them. Over time, this will become automatic, and you won't need to think of the object in your native language first. You'll just think cup or door. This is a tiny step, but a powerful one. The second tip is to create an inner monologue in English. That means talking to yourself in your head in English as much as possible. For example, when you wake up in the morning, think, I need to get out of bed. Then I'll make breakfast, maybe some scrambled eggs and toast. Then I'll check my emails before I start work. Instead of using your native language to plan out your day, do it in English. You can do this while you're cooking, doing chores, or commuting. If you're washing dishes, say to yourself, I'm washing the dishes. The water is hot. I'm using dish soap. I need to clean the plates and the cups. It may feel funny at first, but over time, you'll get used to it and it'll start to flow more naturally. An extra tip, if you get stuck on a word you don't know, just describe it. For example, if you don't know how to say faucet, you could think, I'm turning on the thing that controls the water in the sink. This helps you train your brain to stay in English even if your vocabulary isn't perfect yet. The more input you have in English reading books, articles, social media posts, or listening to podcasts, music, and videos, the easier it will be to think in English. Make sure you choose topics you enjoy or find interesting. If you like sports, read an English sports blog. If you like cooking, watch cooking shows in English. When your brain is constantly exposed to English input, you'll start picking up new vocabulary and phrases that will naturally come to mind. The key is consistency. Try to dedicate at least 15-30 minutes every day to reading or listening in English. And as you read or listen, try to visualize the words in your head in English. If the idea of thinking in English all day feels overwhelming, start small. Pick a specific time of day, maybe for the first 5 minutes after you wake up, and commit to thinking in English during that time only. After you're comfortable, expand it to 10 minutes, then 15, and so on. For instance, if you brush your teeth at a.m. every day, decide, from 7 o'clock to 7:05, I will only think in English. Over time, you can gradually increase that period until you feel ready to handle longer sessions. This progressive approach helps you build a habit without too much pressure or frustration. A great evening or bedtime routine is to briefly summarize your day in English. Think about what you did, what you saw, how you felt, and describe it to yourself in English. For example, today was busy. I went to the grocery store and bought some fruits and vegetables. After that, I worked on my computer for a few hours. I felt a little stressed, but I took a break and went for a walk. Now, I'm tired, so I'll go to bed soon. If you want, you can speak this out loud or write it in a journal. Speaking or writing forces you to organize your thoughts in English, which is excellent practice for fluency. If you keep a daily English journal, you'll also see your progress over time, and that can be very motivating. If you're at home alone or in a private space, think out loud in English. Actually speak your thoughts instead of keeping them in your mind. This helps you connect the mental process of thinking with the physical process of speaking. Let's say you're deciding what to eat for lunch. You can say, what should I have for lunch? I have some chicken in the fridge. Maybe I can make grilled chicken with rice. That sounds healthy and delicious. This might feel silly, but it's a powerful way to push your brain to stay in English mode and practice your speaking skills simultaneously. When we learn a language, we often study individual words. But when you're trying to think in English, it's more natural to think in phrases or chunks. For example, instead of memorizing just the word morning, Learn a common expression like, good morning, in the morning, every morning, I usually. If you focus on phrases like, how are you doing? Or what's up? You'll be able to quickly recall them during real-life conversations or internal thoughts. Let's say you want to talk about your plans. Instead of memorizing plan and weekend separately, memorize an entire phrase, I'm planning to go out this weekend. That way, when you start thinking about your weekend, your brain will jump to that ready-to-use phrase. Remember, thinking in English is a skill, and like any skill, it takes time to develop. You're going to make mistakes. You'll forget words, mix up tenses, or occasionally slip back into your native language. That's completely normal. The important thing is to embrace those mistakes. If you notice you made an error, just correct yourself gently and move on. Don't spend too much time feeling embarrassed or frustrated. The more you practice, the better you'll get. A little patience goes a long way. Now let's see some practical examples of how you can think in English during everyday situations. Situation 1. Morning routine. Your thoughts in English. I'm so sleepy. Let me check the time. Oh, it's 7:30 a.m. I need to wake up now. Today, I have a meeting at 10 o'clock a.m., so I should make breakfast and then get dressed. Situation 2. Commuting to work or school. Your thoughts in English. I'm on the bus. It's quite crowded. I see a few empty seats at the back. Let me check my phone. I hope I'm not late today. Situation 3. Ordering coffee. Your thoughts in English. Do I want a latte or an Americano? I'm really craving something sweet. Maybe a caramel latte. Let's do that. Situation 4. Grocery shopping. Your thoughts in English. I need tomatoes, lettuce, and onions for the salad. What else do I need? Maybe some milk and eggs for breakfast tomorrow. Teacher smiling. By using English in these everyday scenarios, even if it's just in your mind, you'll speed up your learning. If possible, find an online language exchange partner or friend who speaks English. The goal isn't just formal lessons, it's to have casual chats about everyday life. The more you talk about everyday topics, the more naturally you'll start thinking in English. You can also try recording voice notes or short videos of yourself speaking your thoughts. Review them to see how you can improve your vocabulary and sentence structure. This is a great low-pressure way to reinforce thinking and speaking in English. Let's do a quick recap of the tips we covered today. 1. Label your surroundings. Practice naming objects in English around you. 2. Develop an inner monologue. Think about daily tasks in English. Narrate your activities. 3. Read and listen in English daily. Immerse yourself in English content. 4. Start small and build up. Use short time blocks to train your brain to stay in English. 5. Summarize your day. Reflect on what happened. Write or speak out loud in English. 6. Use thinking aloud in private spaces. Verbalize your thoughts when you're alone. 7. Focus on phrases, not just words. Memorize chunks of language for quick retrieval. 8. Embrace mistakes and be patient. Learning takes time, so be kind to yourself. 9. Practical scenarios. Try thinking in English in real-life situations like commuting or shopping. 10. Engage in low-pressure speaking practice. Chat with friends or record yourself in English. Remember, small steps every day lead to big progress over time. The more often you practice thinking in English, the more comfortable and natural it will become. Thank you so much for joining me in today's lesson on how to think in English. I hope these tips and examples help you take your English skills to the next level. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button, share it with your friends who are also learning English, and don't forget to subscribe for more lessons. In the comments below, let me know which tip you're going to try first, or if you have any other strategies for thinking in English that have worked for you. Keep practicing, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive this time into the world of American versus British English.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and we're going to go beyond just the basic, the stereotypical stuff that you always hear about.
Right.
And really kind of dig into like the subtle, the sneaky little differences that even trip up like advanced English speakers.
I know, because I'm one of them.
Yeah, like even, people who are like, very, very fluent in both, but there's still some little things that are like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So we've got 15 words and phrases
Okay.
to guide you through these sort of tricky transatlantic conversations. And trust me, you will be surprised by some of these
I'm
things.
ready to be surprised.
Okay, good. So what I think is interesting is that it's not just like vocabulary swaps. It's like it kind of gives you a peek into the history and the culture and even the humor of both countries.
Absolutely. Yeah. They really do reflect those deep cultural differences and sometimes even values.
Yeah, like almost like a window into like
Yeah.
a different mindset.
Exactly.
So let's jump right in with our first word. It's one that's kind of been popping up a lot lately in both American and British English, but with a slightly different vibe. And that word is
Bespoke.
bespoke.
Yeah. You've probably seen it like in marketing materials and stuff, but how does it actually differ across the pond?
Well, in both American and British English, it basically means the same thing, which is custom made, made for a particular customer.
Right.
But in the U.S., at least, it still kind of has that connotation of something really exclusive associated with like luxury goods and services.
So like a bespoke suit or like
Yes, a bespoke car.
right, like a Rolls Royce or something?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So it still signals like luxury prestige and really that attention to detail.
It's like it's become a marketing word almost.
It has.
Yeah.
It has. And it's becoming more common,
Right.
but it
Yeah.
still has that sense of like, this is special.
Yeah. This is not just off the rack. This is something really unique. Whereas in British English, it's much more commonplace.
Interesting.
You can use it for anything that's customized, whether it's a wedding dress,
Right.
kitchen cabinets, you name it. Our source even gives the example. She ordered a bespoke wedding dress from a designer in London.
Wow. Yeah. So it doesn't have that luxury kind of vibe to it.
Not so much. It's just like, I had this made for me.
Yeah.
Just for me.
Interesting. Okay. So the same word can have these subtle like shades of meaning depending on, where you are in the world.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. I like that.
It's fascinating, and it makes you realize how much context matters when you're communicating.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit to a word that I think often trips people up.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like the classic cue versus line dilemma.
Ah, yes, the great transatlantic cue debate.
Right.
One of those fundamental differences that just seems so simple, but they reveal so much about those cultural perspectives.
Right.
So in the U.S., you stand in line,
Mm-hmm.
which to me kind of implies a more individualistic approach, like everyone's just focused on their own thing,
Right.
getting it done. Whereas in the U.K., you queue,
Right.
and that suggests orderliness.
Right.
Shared social etiquette, like we're all in this together. We're all going to wait patiently for our turn.
And it's almost like a cultural institution in Britain, the concept of queuing.
Absolutely. It is. It's deeply ingrained in British society. You queue at the bus stop, you queue at the grocery store,
Right.
you even queue at the pub.
Yeah, you better queue up.
Yeah. And there's an unspoken understanding that you wait your turn. It's just part of their social fabric.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, is that reflected in other aspects of British life? Is that
yeah.
that whole like sense of order and politeness and
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay, let's move on to a word that describes a feeling we all know too well, but express it differently. Utter exhaustion. So in American English, we might say exhausted, but our British friends have a wonderfully evocative word for this, and that word is knackered.
Knackered. Knackered. Oh, yeah. I love that word.
It's a good one, isn't it?
It is. It's so descriptive. It goes beyond just being tired. It really conveys that sense of being completely drained, worn out.
Right, like you've just hit a wall.
You've hit a wall, you're done. Yeah. And while Americans might use exhausted in a similar way, knackered has this playfulness to it. Like
Right.
almost like they're poking fun at their own fatigue,
Right.
which is very British.
Yeah, it's a good one. And our source uses the example, I'm absolutely knackered after working a double shift,
Oh, yeah.
which I think perfectly captures that.
It does.
But I'm curious, do you think that playful tone is like a way of downplaying the severity of it?
Possibly. Yeah. It could be like a coping mechanism.
Right.
Like make light of a difficult situation, which, as we've said, is very British.
Yeah, very British for sure. Okay, ready for our next word?
Hit me.
Okay. So this is a word that is a bit of a chameleon. It changes its meaning depending on which side of the pond you're on, and that word is fancy. Fancy, yeah, so in American English, fancy typically means, something elaborate
Right.
or upscale, like a fancy dinner or a fancy hotel.
Fancy restaurant. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But when in British English, it takes on a whole other meaning.
It does. It has like a secret double life.
Right.
It means to want or to like something. So you might ask a British friend, do you fancy a cuppa?
Do you fancy a cuppa?
Which means, would you like a cup of tea?
Right.
So simple question, but a very different meaning.
Yeah, I'd say yes to that any day of the week.
Exactly.
A cuppa. Okay, on to our next word. Another one that showcases the British love for expressive language. This one is chuffed.
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 Love it.
It's a good one.
Yep.
A good one.
Yep.
It expresses a feeling of great delight or satisfaction.
Yeah, it goes beyond just being pleased.
Right.
It's like absolutely thrilled over the moon, delighted.
So it's like pleased on steroids.
You could say that yes, if your British friend says, I'm chuffed to bits about your new job, they're not just happy for you, they're ecstatic.
Yeah, they're like really, really happy for you.
Really, really happy.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
I love that it's such a specific word,
It is.
for that very specific emotion.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
captures
yeah.
that feeling of pure joy.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about some seasonal vocabulary. When those leaves start changing color, and Americans call it fall.
Our British friends call it autumn.
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 Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always found it interesting how those different words evoke different images in my mind.
Right.
Fall feels more crisp
Yeah.
and dynamic, like the leaves are like actively falling.
Yeah.
Whereas autumn has a more mellow, kind of wistful feel to it.
More romantic, maybe.
Yeah. It's really interesting how these subtle differences in wording
Yeah.
can like shape our perceptions of the world around us.
Absolutely. It really highlights how language can influence our thoughts and even our emotions.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's explore how Americans and Brits measure time.
Okay.
What do you got for me on this one?
Well, this is a fun one. In British English, they use the word fortnight to denote 2 weeks.
A fortnight.
Yeah. Whereas Americans would simply say 2 weeks.
Right.
Fortnight sounds a little old-fashioned.
Yeah, it does a little bit more literary almost.
Right.
Or historical,
Yeah.
but it's still quite common in British English.
I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's got a charm to it.
Yeah, like a little nod to a bygone era.
Absolutely.
It's cool. Okay. Let's talk about another area where we see these transatlantic differences, and that is taking a break from work or school.
Okay.
So, Americans go on vacation.
The British go on holiday.
Holiday, right? Same concept, different word. But it's interesting, this distinction kind of highlights how language evolves. Both words, vacation and holiday, have Latin roots,
Right.
but they've kind of taken on slightly different meanings over time.
They've each gone on their own little linguistic journey,
Yeah.
reflecting the cultural nuances of their respective countries.
Right. Like the evolution of language.
Exactly. Okay, now we're going to step into a potential minefield of misunderstanding. This is all about wardrobe essentials. What Americans call pants,
That the British call trousers.
trousers. But here's where things get really interesting.
Yes.
In British English, pants typically refer to underwear.
Underwear.
So a simple statement like, I need new pants.
Could lead to some very awkward situations.
Oh my God.
If you're talking to someone from the UK,
Like, so you're in London, you're like, I need some new pants. And they're like,
you're looking at you like, whoa.
oh.
Yeah, you want to buy new underwear right now?
Like-
So be careful with that one.
Be very, very careful.
Stick with trousers if you want to avoid any awkwardness.
Okay, trousers. Got it. Speaking of potentially embarrassing mix-ups, our next word is one that I think Americans need to be extra careful with, and that word is rubber.
Rubber.
Now, in British English, this is a simple word. It means an eraser. That thing you use to rub out pencil marks?
Right.
But in American English, rubber has a completely different meaning.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And it's not something we're going to discuss on this show, but
We'll let your imagination run wild.
yeah.
But suffice it to say, it's best to stick with eraser to avoid any red faces.
Yes, stick with eraser.
Stick with eraser.
Americans, be very, very careful.
Yes.
Our source really emphasizes this. They're like, warning.
Yeah.
Okay, shifting gears a little bit to places of healing, what we call in American English. A doctor's office in British English is often called a surgery.
A surgery?
A surgery. But here's where things can get a little tricky.
They can.
Because in British English, Surgery can also refer to the consultation hours at a doctor's office. So you might hear someone say, I'm going to the surgery at 9 a.m. for a checkup.
Right.
And that doesn't necessarily mean they're having a medical procedure.
No, it just means they're going to see their doctor.
Right.
During their consultation time.
Got it.
So again, context is everything.
Yeah.
When it comes to language.
Right. Very, very true. Okay, let's move on to a mode of transportation that helps us conquer those tall buildings. Americans take the elevator.
The British hop in the lift.
The lift, two different words, same vertical journey.
Exactly.
And, this difference, I think, goes way back to the early days of these contraptions. Elevator, with its emphasis on lifting, kind of reflects that American focus on functionality.
Yeah.
Whereas lift, with the more simpler, elegant sound,
Yeah.
might reflect a British appreciation for understated design.
It's a fascinating thought, isn't it?
It is like the words themselves.
Yeah.
Kind of give you a clue.
They do.
Okay, ready for another housing showdown?
I am.
Okay, in American English, we live in apartments.
Our British counterparts reside in flats.
The flat. So both words paint a picture of, a self-contained living space within a larger building.
Right. Yeah.
But they do conjure up kind of different images.
They do, don't they?
Like apartment to me feels more modern and spacious.
Modern, spacious, maybe even a little bit luxurious.
Right.
Whereas a flat feels cozier, more intimate.
Right.
Maybe even a little bit quirky.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
So apartment might be like a sleek high-rise.
Exactly.
And a flat might be like, charming,
Yeah.
older building with character.
A little more character. Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing how these words can carry such nuanced cultural baggage.
They do. It's fascinating.
It is. Okay, speaking of nuanced cultural baggage, let's talk about entertainment.
Okay.
So Americans go to the cinema to watch a movie.
In British English, they go to the cinema to see a film.
A film.
2 words.
Same cinematic experience, but again, they reflect a little bit of a different perspective.
Right.
Like movie emphasizes movement, action. The spectacle of it all.
The entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas film kind of highlights the artistry, the craft.
The medium itself.
Yeah. Like movie is more about the entertainment value.
Right.
And film is more like it's elevated to an art form.
Exactly. And that distinction really speaks volumes about how Americans and Brits approach cinema in general.
It really does. It's really interesting. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about food.
Okay.
When we're craving that restaurant meal,
Yeah.
but we don't feel like dining in,
Right.
Americans order takeout.
The British go for takeaway.
Takeaway.
And here's where things can get a little tricky again, because in British English, takeaway can refer to both the food itself and the restaurant that provides it.
Yes.
So you might hear someone say, let's get Indian takeaway. And that could mean either ordering food or going to an Indian takeaway restaurant.
Exactly.
So again,
Context. Yeah.
is everything you got to pay attention
Absolutely.
to those subtle cues in British English to make sure you're on the same page.
Right.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive, from bespoke suits to knackered Brits. We've explored some really interesting differences between American and British English, uncovering these hidden layers of history, culture, and humor along the way. And I think it's been fascinating to see how those differences can sometimes lead to miscommunication,
Absolutely.
or at least a little bit of confusion, but it also makes the learning process all the more interesting.
You've done an excellent job of not just identifying these differences, but also analyzing what they reveal about the two cultures.
Well, I've had a wonderful guide, but we're not done yet.
No, we are not.
There are still more linguistic gems to uncover.
Yes.
So buckle up. Get ready for part 2, where we delve into even more fascinating distinctions, including some surprising transatlantic twists on everyday words and phrases.
It's going to be good.
It's going to be good.
You won't want to miss it.
Stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive into the wonderfully quirky world of American versus British English.
And I think you'll find these next few examples particularly intriguing.
Good.
We're going to delve into some everyday words and phrases that take on surprisingly different meanings across the Atlantic.
Okay, hit me with those linguistic curveballs.
Yeah.
What's first on our list?
Let's start with something we all do every day walk in American English. We use the sidewalk to get from point A to point B.
But in British English, they stroll along the pavement.
Same concrete path, different terminology.
Right.
And this seemingly simple distinction actually reveals a lot about cultural perspectives in the U.S. The emphasis is on the side as if it's an addition to the road, almost an afterthought.
Right.
But in the UK, the pavement is the main focus, the designated space for pedestrians.
That's a really interesting observation. It makes you wonder if that difference in terminology reflects a broader difference in how pedestrians are viewed or treated in both countries.
It's definitely something to ponder. Okay, let's move on to something that's near and dear to all of us, food, specifically those sweet treats that bring us joy in American English. We indulge in cookies.
While our British friends savor biscuits.
Now, this is where things can get a bit tricky because what Americans call biscuits are more like what the British would call scones.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's a classic case of a transatlantic word swap.
And a potentially confusing one.
Uh-huh.
Especially if you're craving a chewy chocolate chip cookie and end up with a crumbly, buttery scone. Instead, talk about a culinary disappointment.
I know, right? A total letdown. Speaking of potential disappointments, let's move on to another food-related distinction that often causes confusion snacks when we're feeling peckish and want a quick bite. Americans reach for chips.
While the British opt for crisps.
And to make things even more interesting, what Americans call French fries, the British call chips.
So it's a total chip swap.
It is, and one that can lead to some amusing misunderstandings, especially when ordering food at a restaurant.
Right. Imagine asking for chips in London, expecting a side of fries, only to be served a bag of what you'd call potato chips.
Exactly, or vice versa.
Oh, man.
It's a good reminder that even seemingly simple words can have very different meanings depending on where you are in the world.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's shift gears and talk about something a bit more practical: transportation in American English. We fill up our cars with gas.
While in British English, they top up with petrol.
Same fuel, different terminology.
And this distinction is particularly important if you're ever driving in a foreign country and need to find a petrol station.
Right.
You don't want to end up stranded with an empty tank because you used the wrong word.
That would not be good.
No, not at all. Speaking of transportation, let's talk about those iconic red buses that grace the streets of London. In American English, we'd simply call them buses.
But in British English, they're often referred to as coaches.
Now, this is where things can get a bit confusing because in American English, a coach typically refers to a long-distance bus or a private bus used for tours or sporting events.
Right. Like a tour bus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're in London and someone tells you to catch the coach, they're probably not talking about a luxury tour bus.
Right.
They simply mean to hop on the regular city bus.
Got it. It's all about context.
It is, and it's a reminder that even seemingly straightforward words can have multiple meanings depending on the region and situation.
Okay, let's move on to a topic that's near and dear to my heart. Books. When we finish reading a book, Americans typically return it to the library.
While in British English, they take it back to the library.
It's a subtle difference, but I find it fascinating because it highlights how even simple verbs can vary across regions.
And those subtle variations can sometimes reveal underlying cultural nuances. For instance, the American emphasis on returning might suggest a sense of ownership as if the book is being given back to its rightful place.
Right.
Whereas the British use of taking back might imply a more transactional approach, as if the book is simply being returned to its point of origin.
Like almost like we borrowed it and now we're taking it back.
Exactly. It's like those different verbs offer a glimpse into the unspoken rules and expectations surrounding books and libraries in both cultures.
That's really thought-provoking.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap up this segment with a distinction that's particularly relevant in today's digital age. When we want to find information online, Americans typically use Google to search.
While in British English, they often use Google to look something up.
Again, it's a subtle difference, but it reflects how language adapts to new technologies and cultural practices. Search feels more active and directed, like you're on a mission to find specific information.
Right.
While look something up feels more casual, like you're simply browsing for information or clarifying something you're curious about.
And that distinction might reflect a broader cultural difference in how Americans and Brits approach information gathering. It's fascinating food for thought.
It really is. Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground in this segment, from sidewalks and cookies to petrol and coaches. We've explored a wide range of American versus British English variations, uncovering hidden layers of cultural meaning and potential pitfalls for the unsuspecting traveler or language enthusiast.
You've done a fantastic job of not only highlighting these differences, but also prompting us to think critically about what they reveal about the two cultures and how they influence our communication.
Well, having you as my expert guide has made this journey both insightful and enjoyable. But our linguistic adventure isn't over yet, is it?
Not quite. We still have more fascinating distinctions to uncover in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, I'm ready. Bring on part 3.
Get ready for some even more intriguing and potentially confusing transatlantic twists on everyday words and phrases. Stay tuned.
All right, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into American versus British English.
I feel like we've uncovered so many linguistic surprises already,
Yeah,
but I have a feeling there are still more gems waiting to be discovered.
I think so too. I think so too. So are you ready to wrap up this transatlantic adventure with a bang?
Absolutely. We've explored some fascinating vocabulary variations.
Yep.
But now let's delve into a few more examples that highlight those subtle but significant ways in which American and British English diverge, even in the simplest of actions.
Okay, bring it on. What linguistic mysteries are we unraveling in this final segment?
Well, let's start with something we all do when the temperature drops: bundle up.
Right.
In American English, we put on a sweater when we need an extra layer of warmth.
But in British English, they do in a jumper.
Jumper, same cozy garment, different name.
Right. And that difference in terminology might actually reflect a subtle difference in cultural attitudes toward clothing.
Possibly.
Like sweater emphasizes the practical purpose of the garment, keeping you warm when you sweat.
Right.
But jumper has a more playful, almost whimsical feel to it.
Yeah, like it's meant to make you feel light and bouncy.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that observation. It's amazing how even something as simple as a name for a piece of clothing can reveal these subtle cultural nuances.
It is fascinating, isn't it?
It is. Okay, let's move on to something that's sure to spark some friendly rivalry. The beloved game of soccer.
Oh, yes.
In American English, we call it soccer.
While our friends across the pond simply refer to it as football.
Football. Now, this is a classic example of a transatlantic word swap
It is.
that often leads to some good-natured teasing.
Absolutely. Especially during major sporting events like the World Cup.
Oh, yeah. I can just imagine the banter back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
You call it soccer, we call it football, but we all know who the real fans are.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, we're all united by our love of the game no matter what we call it.
Right.
It's a reminder that even when our words differ, we can still find common ground through shared passion.
Right. Very true. Okay, speaking of common ground, let's tackle another difference that often trips people up: how we talk about time.
Okay.
So in American English, we might say, I have class this afternoon.
While a British person might say, I have class this evening.
And this is where things can get a little tricky, because afternoon and evening don't always have the same boundaries in both varieties of English.
Right.
In general, Americans tend to use afternoon for a broader period of time, extending later into the day than what British English speakers might consider afternoon.
So it's almost like the American afternoon stretches further into the evening hours.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that can definitely lead to confusion if you're trying to schedule something with someone from the UK.
Definitely always best to clarify to avoid any scheduling mishaps.
Right. Good point. Okay, and speaking of potential mishaps, let's delve into the world of higher education, another area where American and British English use different terms for the same concept. So in American English, we attend college after high school.
While in British English, they go to university.
University, same concept, different terminology.
And this distinction can be important when navigating academic conversations or applying to institutions in different countries.
Right.
Imagine telling a British professor that you're applying to college when they're expecting you to say university.
Oops. Yeah, that could be a little awkward.
A little bit, yeah. So it's all about using the right lingo to fit in and avoid those awkward moments.
Right. Very true. Okay, ready for our final linguistic showdown?
I believe so.
All right. Let's explore how Americans and Brits express that feeling of being overwhelmed with work or commitments.
Okay.
In American English, we might say, I'm slammed.
While a British person might say, I'm snowed under.
Snowed under, both expressions convey that sense of being buried under a heavy workload. But they use different imagery to paint that picture.
They do.
I'm slammed. Kind of evokes a sense of sudden impact.
Yeah, like you've been hit with a ton of bricks all at once.
Right, exactly. Whereas snowed under suggests a more gradual accumulation, like you're slowly being buried beneath a growing pile of tasks.
And those subtle differences in imagery can actually reveal a lot about how Americans and Brits approach work and stress.
That's an interesting thought.
It is fascinating how even the simplest of phrases can offer a glimpse into those deeper cultural patterns.
It really is why we've really gone deep on this
Yeah,
journey.
we have.
From sweaters and football to afternoons and universities, we've explored so many fascinating nuances of American versus British English, uncovering these hidden layers of history, culture, and even psychology along the way.
I think it's been a truly enriching exploration.
I agree. I feel like I've gained a whole new level of understanding and appreciation for these two varieties of English.
Me too. It's been fascinating to see how language is more than just a tool for communication. It's a reflection of our cultural values, our historical experiences, and even our individual perspectives on the world.
It really is, and that's what makes the study of language so endlessly fascinating.
Absolutely.
There's always more to discover, more to learn, and more to appreciate.
Always.
So I hope our listeners have enjoyed this deep dive into the wonderfully weird world of American versus British English as much as we have.
I'm sure they have. And remember, the journey of linguistic discovery doesn't end here. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep celebrating the diversity and richness of language in all its forms.
That's great advice. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure. All right, let's dive into some verbs. If you're ready to really boost your everyday English, this beginner lesson plan is pretty amazing. 21 verbs, that's all it takes.
21 essential verbs. Yeah.
And before you think, oh no, grammar, it's not like that, we're going to find out what's so interesting about these words we use every day.
Yeah, and the thing is, you probably use them all the time
Yeah, exactly.
without even realizing it. They're kind of in everything.
It's true. I mean, we don't think about them too much. It's just like, there they are.
This lesson plan, though, it's broken down into 3 parts. Warm up, then all about the verbs themselves, and then practice. I think this is going to make us look at verbs in a totally different way.
Definitely, yeah. Even the warm-up it's pretty clever. It gets you thinking about all the things you do in a day, like all the actions.
Yeah.
And then you realize how many verbs are really just part of everything. It also kind of hints at how verbs aren't always actions, you know?
Oh, interesting.
They can be about, like, states of being, too. Okay, well, let's look at some of the verbs. We don't have to go through all 21 right now. But
yeah.
I'm curious, what makes these, like, so-called basic verbs so special?
So they picked these 21 because, well, they're kind of the basis of communication. I mean, you can say so much with them, right? They cover like actions and how you feel, what you want, things that come up all the time. Let's take have, for example.
Okay.
You probably think of it as like owning stuff. But there's more to it than that.
Right. Like,
Oh.
have lunch.
Exactly.
Or, like, have a good time. So it's about experiences, too.
Yes.
Huh. I never really thought about that before.
And those little differences are what can make English hard to learn sometimes.
Yeah?
Another good one is look versus see.
Okay.
They make a point in the lesson about look, meaning you're trying to see something,
Mm-hmm.
and see, meaning you just, notice it with your eyes.
I like that. There is a difference. I noticed the lesson mentions some interesting things about culture, too, with verbs like and love.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Language isn't just about the words, right?
Right.
It's all tied up with culture and, how people express themselves.
Yeah.
Even what kinds of verbs they use a lot can be different.
So there's a lot more to these simple verbs than you might think.
Definitely.
What about to be? That seems simple. But then there's am and is and are and was and were.
Right. To be is a tricky one because of how it changes. It's so basic, you have to use it to say anything about yourself or the world, but then it changes form all the time. We call that conjugation, by the way.
Okay.
How the verb changes depending on who's doing it or when it happened.
That makes sense. Even though they call these verbs basic, they're not afraid to get into the grammar, which is, probably helpful if you're new to English. So we've talked about a few examples, but I bet you're thinking, how do I actually use these verbs?
That's where the practice part comes in. And it's designed to be really fun.
Yeah.
You're not just going to be doing boring exercises.
Yeah, I was looking at the activities. They look really creative. I saw one where you pretend you're at a store and you have to use the verbs to talk to people.
Right. That's called role-playing, and it's a really good way to practice because you're in a situation.
Right.
And it feels real, but it's safe to try things out.
Mm-hmm.
You can use different verbs, try new phrases, and it really helps you get confident. Much better than just like repeating words from a list, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. I like how they stress that you should use these verbs in your real life, too. Write a journal entry, text a friend, anything to get using them.
Right. That's the idea.
Because the more you use them, the more natural it'll feel, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like working out a muscle, but for your language.
I like that. So we've talked about have, look, see, like love, and to be. I'm ready to dig into some more.
Yeah.
What about give? I mean, it seems pretty simple, but is there more to it?
Give is a good one. Because it doesn't always mean like actually handing something to someone.
Yeah, that's true.
What do I give someone advice?
Right,
Or
yeah.
give someone a chance?
You're right. It's not like a thing you can hold. It's more like knowledge or an opportunity.
Exactly. And that's what makes language so cool. It
Yeah.
can have all these layers of meaning. Like with give, you could be offering help or even like forgiving someone.
It's amazing how these really simple words can mean so many things.
It is.
What about the opposite then? Take.
Oh.
Like, that's not always about physically taking something either, is it?
Nope.
Take a break, take a risk. You could even take someone's word for it.
Exactly. Take is another one that goes way beyond the basic meaning. It can be about accepting something or getting something. And yeah, like you said, you add a preposition and it becomes a whole new phrase.
Oh, that's right. So you can take one word and combine it with others to make a totally different meaning.
Yeah, exactly. It's like each verb is like a little building block. You can make so many different things.
And that's what I love about language. How you can take simple things and put them together to make something really complex.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got have, give, take. Now, what about verbs that are more about how we think and feel? Like think and feel.
Those are big ones.
Right.
For sure.
Because they're how we talk about what's going on inside. Right?
Yeah. With think, you share your ideas, your opinions, that kind of thing. And feel lets you talk about your emotions,
Yeah.
How things make you feel.
I've been noticing how much we use those verbs just in everyday conversation. Like, what do you think about this? Or I feel really happy today.
Right.
They're simple words, but they're how we connect with each other.
It's not just about giving information, it's how we share our experiences with each other, which is, what makes us human, really.
It is. Okay, let's try another group of verbs. How about say, ask, and tell? They all seem to have to do with talking, but what are the differences?
All right. Well, those are important for understanding how we talk to each other. Say is just
Yeah.
about making sounds,
Expressing something. Ask means you want to know something or you're requesting something. And tell is like giving information or instructions.
Wow. So even a small difference like that can change a conversation completely.
Yeah.
It's amazing how 3 simple verbs are behind so much of how we talk to each other every day. We say hello, we ask questions, we tell stories. They're like the foundation of conversation, I guess.
That's a good way to put it. They're how we share ideas, argue, entertain each other.
Right.
Without them, you couldn't really communicate that well.
That's true. All right, let's do 2 more. What about try and use? They seem pretty straightforward, but I wonder if you see anything interesting in them.
Well, try is about effort, and possibility. It means you're making an attempt, but you might not succeed. While use means you're using something for a purpose, a tool or a skill or even like language itself.
So try is like dipping your toe in, and use is like jumping right in.
That's a great way to think about it. Like with use, you've already decided to do something, right?
Exactly.
That's a really good point. It shows how even those small differences in meaning can make a big difference in what you're trying to say.
For sure.
Okay, so we've gone through quite a few of these 21 essential verbs. What do you think someone listening who wants to get better at English should take away from this?
I think the most important thing is that even these basic verbs can do so much.
Yeah.
They're how we communicate, so when you really get them,
Yeah.
you can say so much more and so much better.
They're like, I don't know, the letters of the alphabet for talking. Once you know those, you can make all kinds of sentences.
That's it. It's not about memorizing a list. It's about knowing how they work in different situations with other words
Yeah.
and how they can mean different things.
This deep dive has been really eye-opening. I never thought about these simple words so much before. And I like how this lesson makes learning fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just rules and exercises. It's like exploring, figuring things out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Language changes all the time, which is what makes it interesting, right?
Right.
So this lesson is about getting involved in learning, try things out, play with the verbs, see what happens.
Speaking of trying things out, I'm still thinking about that store role play.
Yeah.
What a cool way to practice. It's fun. And you actually have to use the verbs.
It puts you right in there, like you're really having a conversation
Right.
instead of just like repeating words.
I bet that would make them stick in your head too. It's like learning while you shop for, I don't know, shoes or something.
Exactly. And they have other ideas for practicing too, like writing about your day or using them in texts. The main thing is to use them, make them part of how you talk.
So it's not enough to just learn them on their own.
Right.
You got to put them into practice in real life.
That's how they become like automatic. It's like you don't even have to think about them.
Okay, so to wrap up, what's the one big takeaway you'd want our listener to remember?
I'd say even the simplest words have power, and they can be more complicated than you think.
Yeah.
These 21 verbs are just the start, but once you understand them, you're on your way to speaking English really well.
And for all you language lovers out there, here's something to think about. How do those simple verbs change, depending on where you are or who you're talking to? That's something to keep in mind as you learn more and more words. Keep diving deep.
Ever wish you could just download a new language straight into your brain?
Haha, wouldn't that be amazing?
Seriously. But in the meantime, you sent over this mini lesson all about learning English words every single day.
Yeah.
And, squeezing it into just 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That was intriguing enough to make me want to hit download on this deep dive.
I love that. We're installing an upgrade, right?
Totally.
And honestly, 20 minutes, that feels doable even on the busiest day.
Yeah.
You know what really hooked me was how the mini lesson focuses on strategies that just fit into everyday life.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about cramming or anything. It's
Yeah.
more about, finding ways to weave new words into what you're already doing.
Mm-hmm.
Take the first strategy, for example.
Okay.
Reading or listening to things you actually enjoy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it sounds obvious,
It does.
but how often do we actually do that?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we get so caught up in textbooks and exercises
Yeah.
that we kind of forget about the power of just genuine interest.
Mm-hmm.
When you're actually hooked on a topic, learning new words just feels less like a chore.
Totally. It feels more like a natural part of the experience.
Right.
The mini lesson suggests choosing a short article,
Okay.
maybe 300, 500 words, on something you love.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that feels so much less intimidating than tackling War and Peace in English.
Oh, for sure.
What about things like podcasts or videos?
Oh, yeah.
Those work too.
Absolutely. Especially if you're someone who's more of an auditory learner,
Mhm.
podcasts and videos can be incredibly immersive.
Yeah.
And there's just such a huge variety out there that you're bound to find something that really aligns with what you're interested in.
Right.
And don't be afraid to use things like subtitles or transcripts,
Oh, yeah. Give me time.
just to help you catch those new words.
Okay. So let's say we're cruising along, enjoying our favorite blog or podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and bam, we hit a word we've never seen before. What's the next step?
Well, the mini lesson talks about keeping a vocabulary journal
Okay.
or using an app.
Got it. So is one of those better than the other?
It really just boils down to personal preference. I think some people really love that hands-on feeling of writing in a journal.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're creating your own personalized dictionary with definitions, sample sentences, maybe even little doodles or sketches.
Oh, that's so cool. Turning it into a creative project.
Yeah.
But what about apps? Do they offer anything that a journal can't?
Apps can be fantastic, especially when it comes to this thing called spaced repetition.
Spaced repetition.
Yeah, and this is where technology really shines.
Okay.
They'll actually remind you to review words
Oh, wow.
at specific intervals,
Okay.
which research shows is super effective for, moving information into your long-term memory.
Got it. So it's kind of like having a personal vocabulary trainer
Yes.
built into your phone. Speaking of taking detailed notes,
Yeah.
the mini lesson has this sample journal entry
Mm-hmm.
for the word intriguing.
Oh, yeah.
It's got a definition, an example sentence, even a synonym and an antonym.
Wow.
It's pretty thorough.
That level of detail might seem like overkill to some people,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's what helps to really cement the word in your mind.
Makes sense.
It's not just about recognizing the word, it's about really understanding,
Okay.
its nuances, its connections to other words,
Yeah.
and how to use it correctly.
Got it. I am all about making things fun, so this next strategy really caught my eye.
Oh, tell me about it.
It involves sticky notes,
Uh-huh.
and lots of them.
Haha. I love sticky notes.
So basically, you label everyday objects around your house
Okay.
with their English names.
Oh, I see.
I can already see myself sticking refrigerator on, my refrigerator.
It might seem a little silly at first,
Yeah.
but think about it. Every time you go to grab a snack, you're getting a mini vocabulary lesson.
That's true.
That constant visual reinforcement can really help those words stick.
Right. Plus, if anyone asks, you can tell them you're conducting a very important linguistic experiment.
Exactly.
And here's another little digital twist the mini lesson suggests.
Okay.
Changing your phone's language settings to English.
Oh, that's smart.
Right.
It's such a simple hack, but it's brilliant. You're constantly interacting with your phone.
Hmm.
So all those basic words like settings, messages, calendar,
Yeah.
they just become ingrained in your mind through sheer repetition. It's like passive vocabulary training.
Okay, I have to admit, I've been guilty of this next one myself.
Oh.
Learning words in isolation.
Yeah.
But the mini lesson stresses the importance of learning words in context. Why is that so crucial?
I think rote memorization might help you pass like a vocabulary quiz or something, but it doesn't necessarily lead to true understanding.
Okay.
When you encounter a word in context, in a sentence or a phrase,
Right.
you see how it interacts with other words. You know how its meaning shifts subtly depending on the surrounding language.
So it's like the difference between knowing the individual ingredients of a cake
Okay.
versus understanding how they all work together to create that final delicious result.
No, right. Exactly. The mini lesson even mentions this idea of collocations.
Collocation, so yeah.
Yeah, words that just tend to go together naturally.
Okay.
Like make a decision, or heavy rain, or take a break.
Got it.
And learning these kind of chunks of language can help you sound more fluent, more natural.
It's like learning the right dance steps
Yes.
instead of just flailing your arms around randomly on the dance floor.
Uh-huh, exactly.
Now, I know we're all about making language learning fun and engaging,
Hmm.
but there's no escaping the need for consistency.
Right. And that's where that final strategy comes in.
Okay.
Practice and review consistently.
Got it. And this is where that spaced repetition we talked about earlier comes into play.
Yes, exactly. The mini lesson suggests reviewing new words, after one day, 3 days, a week, and so on.
Okay.
And this gradual spacing helps those words really sink in
Right.
and become part of your long-term vocabulary.
It's like you're building a vocabulary muscle.
Yes,
You need to work it out regularly to see results.
you got it.
The mini lesson even breaks down a sample review schedule where you learn like 5 new words a day
Okay.
and then review them at these specific intervals. It feels so much less overwhelming when you see it all laid out like that.
Absolutely. Even just like 10 or 15 minutes a day, whether it's reviewing flashcards, writing your vocabulary journal, or doing a quick self-quiz,
Yeah.
it can make a huge difference over time. It's about finding those pockets of time in your day and turning them into vocabulary boosting opportunities.
I love it. So we've covered some really solid strategies for learning new words,
We have.
but the mini lesson doesn't stop there.
It doesn't.
No. It also provides some practical activities to actually put those strategies into action.
Ooh, okay, I like this.
The first one's called a quick flash review,
Quick flash review, okay.
which, as the name suggests, involves flashcards.
Ah, makes sense?
I'm guessing most people are pretty familiar with the concept of flashcards, right?
Yeah, they're classic for a reason.
For sure.
But you know what? The mini lesson adds a fun little twist,
What's that?
a timer challenge.
Oh, cool.
So you set a timer for 1 minute and you try to get through as many flashcards as possible.
Okay.
It's a great way to add a little friendly competition to your review sessions,
Love it.
even if you're just competing against yourself.
Right. I love the idea of gamifying learning.
Me too.
It can really help keep things interesting
For sure.
and prevent those review sessions from becoming, monotonous.
Absolutely. Now, the next activity is where things get a little bit more interactive.
Okay.
It's the word of the day role play.
Ooh, this one sounds fun. So the idea is to choose a word of the day.
Right.
Why don't we use one we've mentioned already?
Okay. Yeah.
How about intriguing?
Intriguing. Perfect
Yeah.
choice. Now we each need to come up with a short dialogue.
Okay.
Where we use intriguing naturally. At least twice.
Okay.
Imagine we're at a bookstore.
All right. Give me a sec to think. Okay, I got it. We're browsing the shelves, and I spot a book with a cover that just screams, "Read me."
Haha, I'm already hooked. What happens next?
I turn to you and say, "Wow, this new mystery novel looks so intriguing. I've heard great things about the author."
And I might reply with something like, I've been meaning to try something different. Tell me more about what makes it so intriguing.
See, it's all about finding ways to use the word in a context that feels, real and relatable.
Exactly.
The mini lesson encourages you, the listener, to come up with your own dialogues too.
It's such a fantastic way to practice using new vocabulary in a creative and engaging way. Now, the final activity is perhaps the easiest and most accessible of them all.
Okay.
Self-talk.
We all do it, right?
No.
But now we have an excuse to do it in English.
Exactly. The idea is to simply narrate your actions throughout the day.
Okay.
I'm making breakfast, I'm walking to work, I'm answering emails.
Yeah.
The challenge is to try to sprinkle in at least one new word each day.
That's a good challenge.
Right.
It's such a low-pressure way to practice.
It is.
You're your own audience, so there's no fear of judgment.
Right. And over time, you'll be surprised at how naturally those new words start to flow.
That's awesome. So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
We talked about key strategies, practical activities.
Mm-hmm.
But before we move on, I want to highlight one important takeaway that really resonated with me.
Okay, I'm all ears.
It's the reminder that learning new words is not just about, expanding your vocabulary.
Mm.
It's about expanding your horizons, your ability to engage with the world around you in deeper and more meaningful ways.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Right.
It's about unlocking new possibilities.
Exactly. And with that in mind, I'd love to hear from you, the listener.
Oh, yeah.
What word of the day would you choose, and what scenario would you create to practice using it?
Ooh, I love it.
Share your ideas in the comments below.
That's a great way to bring the listener into the conversation.
Right.
It's all about making vocabulary learning interactive and engaging.
Totally.
Okay.
Now let's kind of shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and explore another activity from the mini lesson.
All right.
Self-talk
Ah, yes, the art of talking to yourself.
in English.
In English.
It might sound a little strange at first,
Yeah.
but it's actually a brilliant way to practice.
It is.
Without any pressure or self-consciousness, you can do it anywhere, anytime.
I've been trying this out myself lately, and I found it surprisingly helpful. Yeah. It's like having this internal dialogue that helps to solidify those new words in my mind.
Okay, let's give it a try right now.
All right.
I'm going to try to incorporate a new word into my self-talk.
Okay.
How about this? I'm finding this deep dive into vocabulary learning to be quite enlightening. I'm curious to see what other strategies we'll uncover next.
That's a great example. Yeah. You seamlessly worked in a new word and made it sound totally natural.
Thanks. And it's even more fascinating.
What?
The fact that we're constantly learning and evolving, even as, seasoned podcast hosts.
So true. There's always something new to discover.
Right.
Even in a field we're already familiar with. It's like we're back to that first tip from the mini lesson.
Right.
Choosing content that genuinely interests us.
And that's what keeps learning fresh and exciting.
Yeah.
When you're curious and engaged, your brain is just primed to absorb new information.
Absolutely.
Speaking of curiosity, have you come across anything lately that's really sparked your interest? Maybe something completely outside the realm of language learning.
Well, I've been reading a lot about the latest developments in virtual reality technology.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, the potential applications in education, particularly language learning, are pretty mind-blowing.
Wow, that does sound fascinating. Can't imagine how immersive VR experiences could revolutionize the way we learn languages.
Right. The possibilities are pretty much endless. But you know what else I find amazing?
What's that?
The human brain's capacity for language learning. Its inherent ability to adapt and grow.
It is remarkable. We're wired for communication,
Yeah.
to connect with each other through words.
Absolutely. And the more words we have at our disposal, the richer and more nuanced those connections can be. It's like having a wider palette of colors to paint with, or a more diverse set of instruments to compose music with.
Oh, I love those metaphors.
Right.
They perfectly capture the beauty and power of language.
And that brings us back to the core message of this deep dive.
Okay.
Listening new English words daily is not just about expanding your vocabulary.
Right.
It's about expanding your horizons, your ability to engage with the world around you in deeper, more meaningful ways.
It's about unlocking new possibilities, both personally and professionally.
Exactly.
So as you kind of embark on this vocabulary building journey,
Yeah.
remember this. Every new word you learn is a key that unlocks a new door, a new perspective, a new connection.
Oh, I love that.
Right.
And who knows what amazing discoveries might be waiting for you on the other side.
This has been such an insightful deep dive so far. We started with a mini lesson on daily vocabulary learning, and now we're pondering the future of virtual reality
I know.
and the incredible capabilities of the human brain.
It's amazing how one topic can lead to another.
It is.
How interconnected knowledge truly is.
It reminds me of that famous saying, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
That is so true. And that realization is both humbling,
Yeah,
and exhilarating.
it is.
It fuels our curiosity.
Yeah.
And it drives us to keep learning, to keep exploring.
Which is exactly what we're here to do.
Yeah.
Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with one final thought-provoking question.
Oh, I love these final thoughts.
Right.
They always leave me with something to ponder long after the episode ends.
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay, here it is. We've talked a lot about the practical benefits of learning new words. But what about the emotional impact? How does learning a new word make you feel?
Ooh, that's such an insightful question.
Right.
It goes beyond just like the cognitive aspects of language, and it taps into the deeper, more personal side of learning.
Think about it. When you finally grasp the meaning of a word that's been eluding you,
Right.
or when you use a newly learned word confidently in a conversation,
Yeah.
how does it make you feel?
Yeah. Do you feel a sense of accomplishment, of empowerment?
Yeah.
Maybe even a little thrill of excitement.
I do. It's like cracking a code or unlocking a secret.
Yeah.
And that feeling of mastery,
Yeah.
of expanding your linguistic repertoire.
Yeah.
It can be incredibly motivating.
So true. So, as you continue on your vocabulary journey, pay attention not just to the words themselves,
Okay.
but to the emotions they evoke.
Mm-hmm.
Let those positive feelings fuel your passion for language learning.
I love that. And remember, every new word you learn is a victory,
It
a
is.
testament to your ability to grow and evolve.
Beautifully said.
We'll be back soon with part 2 of our deep dive into learning English words daily.
Can't wait.
Until then, happy learning.
And may your vocabulary be ever expanding.
See you soon.
Bye. That was such a great question to end on.
Yeah.
I love how you brought the emotional aspect of language learning into the mix.
It's so true, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about adding words to like a mental list or whatever.
Yeah.
It's about how those words make us feel, more confident, more connected,
Yeah,
more capable of expressing ourselves.
exactly.
Like every new word adds another brushstroke to the canvas of our communication.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay, enough with the artsy metaphors for now.
Huh, okay.
Remember all those practical activities from the mini lesson?
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking it's time to try one out ourselves,
Okay.
live and direct for our listeners' benefit.
Ooh, a live demo.
Yeah.
I'm always up for a challenge.
All right,
Which one are we thinking?
let's revisit the word of the day role play.
Okay.
We already picked our word. Enlightening.
Yeah.
Inspired by that self-talk example we just did.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's see if we can weave it into like a spontaneous dialogue.
All right, game on. Let's set the scene. How about we pretend we just finished listening to a guest speaker at a conference?
Love it. Conferences are full of enlightening moments, or at least
Yeah.
they're supposed to be.
Right.
Okay, so picture this. We're walking out of the auditorium, still buzzing from the talk,
Okay.
and you turn to me and say,
Wow, that presentation on the future of renewable energy was so enlightening. I had no idea we were making such progress.
and I'd reply, I know, right? It was really enlightening to hear about those new solar panel technologies. It gives me hope for a more sustainable future.
Nailed it.
Ooh.
We managed to use enlightening in a natural, conversational way.
See? It wasn't even that hard.
That at all.
You, listening right now, can do this too.
Yeah.
Pick a word, any word,
Uh-huh.
and imagine a scenario where you might use it.
Mm-hmm.
The mini lesson makes a great point. You're much more likely to remember a word if you can connect it to a real life situation.
Absolutely. The more you can make those connections, the more those new words will start to feel like your own.
Now, there's one more activity from the mini lesson we haven't tackled yet.
Oh, which one?
Self-talk.
Oh, right.
Remember, this is where you basically narrate your own life in English,
Mm-hmm.
sprinkling in those newly acquired words.
It might sound a little silly at first.
Yeah.
But honestly, who's judging? You're your own audience.
Exactly.
Plus, it's a fantastic way to practice without any pressure.
Okay, let's give it a go.
All right.
Imagine I'm making my morning coffee.
Okay.
I could say something like, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee is incredibly invigorating.
Yeah.
It's the perfect way to start a productive day.
See? Effortless.
Ha.
And you slipped in invigorating like a pro.
I try.
What's fascinating about this technique is that it forces you to think about how to use the word
Okay.
in a way that makes sense for you
Right.
in your daily routine.
It's like tailoring a vocabulary suit that fits perfectly.
Exactly. It's about making those words your own,
Right.
integrating them into the fabric of your daily life.
This deep dive has been so insightful so far.
Yes.
We've gone from practical strategies to hands-on activities and even touched upon like the emotional side of language learning.
Right.
But what really strikes me is this underlying theme of personalization.
Oh, interesting.
It's not about following a rigid set of rules or anything.
Yeah.
It's about finding what works for you, making those words come alive in your own unique way.
You hit the nail on the head. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to language learning.
No.
What matters most is finding methods that resonate with you, that keep you engaged and motivated.
And that's the beauty of this mini lesson, right?
Absolutely.
It's packed with ideas and activities,
Yeah.
but ultimately it empowers you to be the architect of your own vocabulary journey.
Absolutely. It's like a toolbox filled with all the tools you need to build your own linguistic masterpiece.
I love it.
Speaking of tools,
Yeah.
do you remember that point in the mini lesson about spaced repetition?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's worth revisiting
Okay.
because it's such a powerful technique.
Absolutely. For anyone just joining us, spaced repetition is this brilliant idea of reviewing material at increasing intervals. So you might review a new word after a day, then 3 days, then a week, and so on.
Right.
It's all about outsmarting your brain's tendency to forget things.
Exactly. And what's so cool is that there's a scientific basis for this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Research has shown that spaced repetition actually helps to strengthen those neural pathways in your brain,
Wow.
making it much more likely that those new words will stick around for the long haul.
So it's like building a mental muscle memory
Yes.
for vocabulary.
And here's where technology can really come in handy.
Okay.
There are tons of apps out there that do the spacing for you.
Oh, nice.
So you don't have to keep track of all those review dates or anything.
That's awesome.
It's like having a personal vocabulary coach in your pocket.
Speaking of personal coaches,
Yeah.
have you ever tried working with a language tutor
Oh, yeah.
or joining a conversation group? The mini lesson didn't really go into those options in detail,
Right.
but I think they're worth mentioning.
Absolutely. Having a tutor or language partner can provide that extra layer of accountability and personalized feedback.
It's like having a guide on your vocabulary trek.
Exactly. And conversation groups are fantastic for, putting those new words into practice in a real-world setting.
Right. It's one thing to recognize a word on a page or in a flashcard,
Yeah,
but it's a whole different ball game to be able to use it confidently in a conversation.
I agree.
So to our listener out there, if you're feeling stuck or want to take your vocabulary learning to the next level,
Yeah,
don't hesitate to explore those options.
good advice.
There's a whole community of language learners out there ready to support and encourage you on your journey.
Now let's shift gears for a moment
Okay.
and talk about something that often gets overlooked in language learning.
What's that?
The importance of pronunciation.
Ah, yes, pronunciation. The art of making those sounds that twist and turn our tongues in ways we never imagined.
Haha, so true. And while the mini lesson didn't really delve too deeply into this aspect,
Right.
I think it's crucial for anyone who wants to be understood and to sound more fluent.
Absolutely. Think about it. You might have this vast vocabulary,
Yeah.
but if your pronunciation is off, it can create a communication barrier.
Exactly. It's like having a beautiful message written on a piece of paper,
Right.
but then crumpling it up before you hand it to someone.
Oh, no.
The message is there,
Yeah.
but it's difficult to decipher.
So what are some tips for improving pronunciation? What worked for you on your language learning journey?
One thing that really helped me was listening intently to native speakers.
Okay.
I would pay close attention to how they formed sounds, the rhythm and intonation of their speech.
It's like training your ears
Yeah,
to pick up those subtle nuances.
exactly. And then, of course, there's practice, practice, practice.
Right.
I would spend hours repeating words and phrases, trying to mimic those native speaker sounds as closely as possible.
It's like fine-tuning a musical instrument,
Yeah.
getting those notes to ring out clearly and accurately.
And don't be afraid to use resources, too, like online dictionaries and pronunciation guides. They can be incredibly helpful,
Yeah.
especially for those tricky sounds that just don't exist in your native language.
And remember, there are so many different accents and dialects out there.
That's true.
Don't feel pressured to sound exactly like one particular speaker.
Right.
The goal is to be clear and understandable
Yeah.
while still embracing your own unique voice.
Speaking of unique voices,
Yeah.
have you noticed how our own voices have evolved over time
Interesting.
as we've immersed ourselves in different languages and cultures?
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it?
It's like our voices become a tapestry,
Ooh.
woven with threads of all the languages we've encountered.
Wow, I love that.
And that's what makes language learning so enriching.
Mhm.
It's not just about acquiring new words.
Right.
It's about expanding our understanding of the world
Yeah.
and of ourselves.
I love that image.
Yeah.
Our voices as linguistic tapestries, reflecting our unique journeys and experiences. And just like tapestries, they continue to evolve and grow
I do.
as we learn and explore.
So to our listener out there, as you continue on your vocabulary adventure,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to embrace the journey, the challenges, and the triumphs.
Right.
Allow yourself to be transformed by the power of language.
Remember, every new word you learn is a step toward fluency,
It is.
a brushstroke on your linguistic canvas,
Ooh, another one.
a thread in your ever-evolving tapestry of voices.
This deep dive has taken us on quite a journey so far.
It has.
From practical tips to thought-provoking questions
Yeah.
to a celebration of the transformative power of language.
And we're not done yet. Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive.
Yes.
Where we'll explore even more insights from the mini lesson and leave you with some final words of wisdom to carry with you on your vocabulary quest. Welcome back to our deep dive into learning English words daily. I feel like we've already covered so much ground. From those like practical sticky note strategies to the idea of our voices as like ever-evolving tapestries
Just love that metaphor.
woven with the threads of different languages.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It has.
And yet there's still so much to explore.
Right.
What I love about this mini lesson is that it just packs in so much valuable information, but it still feels manageable, you know?
Right. It's like they distilled all the best advice on vocabulary learning into like this potent shot of knowledge.
It is.
And speaking of potency,
Yeah.
let's revisit that concept of consistency, which the mini lesson really emphasizes.
Ah, yes, consistency. The secret ingredient to success in pretty much any endeavor, language learning included.
For sure.
It's so tempting to want to cram a ton of new words all at once, but that often leads to like overwhelm and frustration.
It's like trying to eat a whole birthday cake in one sitting. You might get a sugar rush initially, but you'll probably end up with a stomach ache and no real enjoyment of the cake itself.
That's such a good analogy. It's much better to savor those slices of vocabulary knowledge one at a time, allowing them to digest and become part of your, long-term linguistic repertoire.
I like that. Yeah, so it's not about intensity.
Right.
It's more about creating a sustainable habit.
Exactly.
And that's where those 20-minute daily chunks that the mini lesson advocates for really shine.
Yeah.
It feels doable, even on the busiest of days.
It does.
Exactly. It's about weaving vocabulary learning into the fabric of your life, making it as routine as like brushing your teeth or checking your email.
I like that.
And that's where those practical activities we've been discussing come into play. You know, they make it fun and engaging, almost like a game.
Totally.
From those playful sticky notes to those spontaneous self-talk moments, it's about finding what clicks for you.
Yeah.
What keeps those vocabulary gears turning?
And don't underestimate the power of simply noticing new words in the wild. Whether you're reading a news article or watching a movie or eavesdropping on a conversation. Ooh, sneaky.
Don't tell anyone I said that.
Your secret's safe with me.
Good.
But yeah, be on the lookout for those unfamiliar words.
It's like turning the world into your own personal vocabulary playground.
I love that.
And once you've spotted a new word, don't just let it fly by.
Yeah.
Take a moment to jot it down, look it up, try to use it in a sentence.
Okay.
The more you interact with those words, the more likely they are to stick.
It's like making a new friend.
Right.
The more you get to know them, the more they become a part of your life.
You know, it's interesting how we often approach language learning with the sense of urgency. Like we need to conquer it as quickly as possible.
Right.
But what if we shifted our perspective a little bit
Okay.
and viewed it as an ongoing journey,
Yeah.
a lifelong exploration of the beauty and complexity of language?
That's such a powerful reframing.
It is, right.
It takes the pressure off.
And allows us to just embrace the process, the ups and downs, the aha moments,
Right.
and the times when we stumble.
And through it all, we're learning, we're growing,
Yeah.
we're expanding our horizons. It's like we're adding new colors to our linguistic palette, new instruments to our symphony of communication.
I love that imagery.
Yeah.
It reminds us that language learning is not just about practicality.
Right.
It's about creativity, expression, connection.
And those are things worth savoring, don't you think?
Absolutely. So, to our listener out there, as you continue on your vocabulary quest, remember to enjoy the ride, embrace the challenges,
Yeah.
celebrate the victories,
And never stop exploring the wonders of language.
and remember, every new word you learn is a gift,
It is.
a treasure that will enrich your life in countless ways.
This deep dive has been such a rewarding experience, exploring all these practical strategies and insightful tips for learning English words daily.
It had.
It's been a pleasure sharing this journey with you.
And with you, our wonderful listener. We hope you've gleaned some valuable insights from this deep dive and feel inspired to embark on your own vocabulary adventure.
Until next time, happy learning.
And may your vocabulary be ever expanding.